2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. We got a whole lot to do today. Coming up in an hour 20 from now, Jordan Faison from the Notre Dame football team. He's a national champion in lacrosse, and also he's been now a part of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish football team for the last 2 years, trying to win a championship with them. He led the team in receiving on Friday night to kick off the college football playoff and Notre Dame's big victory up against Indiana. He'll join us an hour 20 from now. And then coming up in the final hour of the show today, we'll talk about the surging Minnesota Vikings, who have a chance to get the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. The future of Sam Darnold, what's going to happen with him, with former Vikings linebacker and current team analyst in Ben Leber on their radio network, as the Minnesota Vikings have been a wonderful story this year, and they had a great victory yesterday up against the Seattle Seahawks to put them at 13-2 on the season. But I got to start with everything that happened over the weekend in the college football playoff. So the takes that I have heard from Saturday evening to early Sunday morning all throughout Sunday until now have been absolutely insufferable. So, and I also think there's a lot of contradictions that go on. So I love that Lane Kiffin, right, thinks that his Ole Miss team got screwed out of getting into the college football playoff, where, let me just let everyone in on a secret. If it was a 4-team playoff, even if you want to say a 6-team playoff, or even an 8-team playoff, I think there is a case to be made with a limited selection that maybe a team could get screwed. But in a year where outside of Oregon, there wasn't another great football team in college football, for you to not be able to make a 12-team playoff, let me let you in on a little secret. It means you didn't belong. Because there were multiple teams this year that stubbed their toe, were still able to stand back up, and then they stubbed their toe again, fell back down, and then you were hoping you were able to stand back up once again. It's very simple. If Ole Miss didn't end up losing to Florida, they would have been in the college football playoff. If Alabama didn't lose to Oklahoma at the end of the season, they would have been in the college football playoff. So I understand the tough debate, and it's always been one that we've had even when it was a 4-team. The objective of the committee is to get the however many best teams, whether it was 4 or 12. But you also got to be deserving too. And when you look at Alabama this year, and you look at Ole Miss, and I'm not anti-SEC. I love the SEC. They didn't do enough on the field to clearly plant the flag in the ground and say we deserve to be one of these 12 teams. So I don't care that SMU got blown out. I don't care that Indiana got blown out. But I do find it funny how loud the SEC fans were and how loud Lane Kiffin was on social media commenting about Notre Dame beating up on Indiana, commenting on Penn State beating up on SMU, but there were crickets. It was absolute silence. You didn't hear anything from Lane Kiffin when an SEC school in Tennessee got absolutely destroyed by Ohio State by a score of 42-17. So all I ask for is consistency. We did not get consistency from Lane Kiffin this past weekend. And also, the College Football Playoff Committee, whether you like their decision or not, at least they were consistent. They told you pretty much what they did with the rankings, that making your conference championship game matters. They didn't penalize Texas. They didn't penalize Penn State for losing in their conference championship games. They made them the 5th seed, and they made them the 6th seed. They didn't punish SMU, who was in the playoff before, for playing an extra game and losing to Clemson. So the idea that, that Alabama and Ole Miss got screwed, I just don't see it. Now, if you want to say Alabama is better than Indiana, or you also have Ole Miss is better than SMU, I get it. You know, if you said to me, Zach, Alabama plays Indiana on a neutral site, or even at Indiana, who wins the game? I'm probably picking Alabama. If you say, Zach, Ole Miss plays SMU, who wins the game? I'm probably picking SMU. You know, I am. But it doesn't mean that those schools needed to be in the college football playoff, because then if that's the case, just put the preseason rankings up there from the beginning of the year. The 12 teams that are the top 12 teams in the country out of the top 25, the first 12, they make the college football playoff. The games do have to matter. And I understand Indiana in their 2 biggest games of the season, they got smoked by Ohio State, and Kurt Cignetti got smoked by Notre Dame. SMU, when you look back at their performance and you see the way before this one where they lost to BYU, who's a good team, and they lost to Clemson by 3 in an ACC championship game, they didn't have this great win. But also, I said a few weeks ago, when you looked at the resume of Alabama and Miami, when Miami fans thought that they had a place to bitch and complain, which they didn't. And hey, I'm Mr. Consistent here. I tell you, in a 12-team format, you don't have a right to bitch, in my opinion, if you don't get in because you didn't make it obvious. But to the Miami fans that were freaking out for about 5 days that Alabama's getting in and they're not, well, yeah, the Alabama quality of wins were better. But once again, if they elected to put Miami in over Alabama, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, Alabama got screwed. And here's the other tricky part, too. And we've seen this before. And Nick Saban actually made this argument a few years ago when his team was left out of the college football playoff. Well, if Alabama played Indiana, or if Ole Miss played SMU, who would be the favorite? Yeah, obviously it would be Alabama, and obviously it would be Ole Miss. They would be the favorites. But just because you're the favorite doesn't mean that you're going to win the game. Alabama was a favorite up against Vanderbilt. How did that work? Alabama was a favorite up against Oklahoma. How did that work? Ole Miss was a favorite up against Kentucky, a favorite up against Florida. How did that work? So the nonsense that I'm hearing in the last 48 to 72 hours, how Alabama got screwed and Ole Miss got screwed. The irony is the team that we're not talking about is South Carolina. South Carolina at the end of the season was playing better football than both Alabama and Ole Miss. But with that being said, South Carolina lost to Ole Miss and Alabama. But you don't hear South Carolina really bitching. And to be fair, and I like Kalen DeBoer a lot, you haven't heard Alabama really bitch. The one coach, and I like personality from my coach, I like entertainment, I'm a fan of Lane Kiffin. But as great as I like Lane Kiffin, as much as I like Lane Kiffin, I thought he was lame Kiffin for what he pulled over this weekend. Because you can't tell me that you want me to take you seriously when you're basically dancing on the parade and pushing your narrative when Notre Dame is beating up on Indiana and Penn State is beating up on SMU. But then when your SEC conference is getting smacked in the mouth, absolutely smacked, embarrassed, dragged up and down the field by Ohio State team who a few weeks ago couldn't beat Michigan, and Michigan couldn't even have like a forward pass that was successful, you can't tell me that that's when you go silent. So I think it's a bunch of hypocrisy. I think it's a bunch of jackassery. And this idea that now the committee should be shamed and the committee did a shameful job based off the standard that they were grading off of, where you have to pluck on who you think the best teams are, but also the best teams that deserve to go. They got the right 12 teams. But I think there's a bigger point to be made here. And I don't want to say I told you so, because I'm not going to be an I told you so type of guy today, because all throughout the year I will acknowledge, even though I was anti-college football playoff expansion to 12 teams before the start of the season, and I thought it would water down the product, and I didn't think you needed to go from 4 to 12. I said at most go from 4 to 6 or go 4 to 8, right? That's what I've been saying all year. But as the season did go on, and they had the perfect, really, results play on out where every team besides Oregon was stubbing their toe this year and had to get back up, and then most of those teams stubbed their toe again. The 12-team format for most of this year was met with positivity. With most of this year was met in a good light and was really talked about in a good way from even like somebody by myself that never wanted to go to 12 teams and was vehemently against 12 teams. So when I want, right, Lane Kiffin to be genuine, it would be really disingenuous of me, even though I was anti the 12-team format before the year started, and then for most of the season, I'm like, okay, they're going to get it right. I don't think it would be right if I got on the air today and said, hey, they now got to go back to 4 teams, or they got to go to only 8 teams. I don't think that would be right. And I also understand what will happen and what should happen. Right? I said if they were going to expand, 6 or 8 would have been a good number. But I knew that they were going to go more than that. And for them making that drastic jump from 4 to 12, if you think this is the first time they're going to expand it, and that's it, please, I got a bridge to go sell you after the show. They will expand this even further. But you look at right now the 8 teams remaining. If I would have told you that we could bypass the weekend that we just saw, Texas beating up on Clemson, Ohio State beating up on Tennessee, Penn State beating up on SMU, and Notre Dame beating up on Indiana. If I told you we could bypass all that, and I love football, I thought it was a boring weekend of football, if I'm being honest, in college and also the NFL. This was one of the rare weekends this year where I actually thought the NFL was better than the college. And it wasn't like the NFL had you jumping for joy at the end of the day. But if I said you could get rid of, outside of the atmosphere and how cool it was to see those teams on their own campus stadium for a playoff game, if you could wipe that away for Friday and Saturday, I'm telling you that we're starting the college football playoff with these matchups only in an 8-team playoff of Notre Dame, Georgia, Penn State, Boise State, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas, Arizona State. Would anyone complain about that? I don't think so. So yes, I'm not going to sit here and say it was definitely a mistake to go to 12. because for most of this year it has worked out. But we had crappy, and I mean abysmal, semifinal games when it was a 4-team playoff. There weren't many great 4-team playoff semifinal games. There just wasn't. You know, Oklahoma, Georgia is one that stands out. There's a few others as well. But for the most part, like last year was a big hit, especially with Alabama and Michigan. But for the duration and for the majority of the 4-team college football playoff, every Tom, Dick, and Harry would be getting on the air the following day after we found out what the championship game was and was like, man, these semifinal games blow. These semifinal games, they stink. These semifinal games, they suck. So really what they did was they expanded the pool. You still have SEC schools that don't get in, that didn't do enough to deserve a spot. They're still bitching. And we still saw the first round games, which used to be the semifinals, and now it's the first round, leading into the quarterfinals. They really sucked. So it's like everyone's complaining, and I think people are just complaining to complain. So long segment here, obviously, talking about this. But just to summarize pretty much my feelings on it, I can't say, outside of Tennessee, Ohio State, I can't say I'm stunned by any of the results. I never thought that SMU was going to beat Penn State. I never thought Indiana was going to beat Notre Dame. I thought Clemson could give Texas a run, and at times that game got close, but it was similar to the Big Ten championship game between Penn State and Oregon. You never really thought Texas was going to lose, just how you never really thought Oregon was going to lose when you look back at Texas, Clemson, and Oregon, Penn State. And that probably was the best game, Clemson and Texas. But then you look at Ohio State, Tennessee, I thought for sure, and I know Dylan Sampson got hurt, but with how good that defense is for Tennessee, Nico Amaliava, who clearly run the football, got to work in the passing, and just the unknown questions with Ohio State, I thought that was going to be a game that delivers. But early on, when it was 14-0, and Ohio State said, oh, wow, we have all these weapons on the outside, let's actually use them, which we didn't do 3 weeks ago up against Michigan, you know that was the lights were getting turned off and that party was over. It was over for the 40,000 Tennessee fans that invaded Ohio Stadium. That game was over rather quickly. So no, I don't think Alabama got screwed. I don't think Ole Miss got screwed. And even though I never thought we should have gone to a 12-team format, I'm not going to sit here today and be disingenuous and say, oh, we got to get rid of the 12-team format. Because it's just a waste of everyone's time. It's a waste of my breath to say that because we know what this is all about. It's the money. And we know the money is never going to follow truncating the system or even having it stay the same. And moving forward, they're going to expand to this college football playoff. Could it change the criteria moving forward? Because there's a lot of social media reaction today. It's like, oh, Alabama should have got in. Oh, Ole Miss should have got in. Maybe. That's a possibility. But I don't think the committee got it wrong. Because you have to earn a right to the college football playoff. And even though, right, Indiana's resume wasn't great, SMU's resume wasn't great, Alabama and Ole Miss didn't do enough to make it clear and obvious in a 12-team format. And when you don't do enough to make it clear and obvious in a 12-team format, I can't lose my mind and be irate about teams that have 3 losses and teams that lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt at the end of the season. And Alabama, right, who lost to Tennessee, I can't freak out and say, oh, Alabama should have been there when they didn't do enough. And also, Tennessee got smacked in the college football playoff. Absolutely smacked in the college football playoff. So I don't really think there is a right argument to be made when you take a look back and you take a glance back at the committee decision in terms of, oh, this is why it was obvious that Alabama needed to be there or Ole Miss needed to be there. I don't see it. And I won't sit here today and say, man, expanding to 12, even though I wasn't a big fan of it, was this ridiculous mistake, because in reality, the conversation still hasn't changed. There's a lot of teams that thought they should have been a part of this format, just like there was with 4, just like there was with 12. And the first round matchups, they were bad at 4, and they're still bad at 12. So here we are. What's your reaction to the way that everything shaked out this weekend with the college football playoff opening round? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. I saw our buddy Tiki Barber down the hall. He is in today, working hard right before the holiday of, obviously, we have Christmas Eve tomorrow and then also Christmas Day. So we're going to be off on Tuesday and Wednesday. And during the holiday season, right, people like to bring things into the office. I made a mistake before the show. There was, I think it was pound cake, and then there was also Christmas cookies. So Tiki and I were saying, I wonder how long these Christmas cookies have been out here, because sometimes in a radio station, that the Christmas cookies could be brought in on like Friday and they could still be here on Monday, and you don't want a stale cookie. So Tiki sacrificed himself. He tried the cookie and he goes, they're good to go. So I ate the cookie 3 minutes before the start of the show. And this entire segment, my mouth is like watering still from the cookie, which when you have to talk for a living, and I feel like I'm clearing my throat during this entirety, it doesn't always make for the best radio. I have no clue if you could tell in the stream. I have no clue if you could tell when I just did that last 17 minutes of radio. But I know it, and it's annoying me today. Are you annoyed with the College Football Playoff Committee? Ooh, that was a good transition. Are you annoyed and thinking that the SEC believes that they got screwed? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. We come on back. Two quarterbacks that I love watching right now in the NFC. We'll get to that on the other side. But first, football season is in full swing, and you can take full advantage by winning some cash with Sleeper Picks. Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less than at least two of your favorite player stats. If you're right, you could win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. For a limited time, Sleeper has a special offer. New users just have to play $5, and they'll receive $55 in free bonus entries. That's right. If you deposit $25 and play $5, they'll give you 11 $5 bonus entries to start playing. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE and get it on this promo before time runs out. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and unlock one of the fastest growing fantasy sports apps in the world. Use code SCORE to claim the play $5, get $55 bonus entry offer. That's code SCORE. Must be at least 18 years old in most states and present in state where it is legal to wager. Promo code location and other restrictions apply. Minimum deposit $25. See terms to use for details at sleeper.com. Please play responsibly. Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Jordan Faison from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish is going to join us coming up in an hour from now. Also at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific today, we will be joined by Ben Leber, who is the former NFL linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings and also is a part of their radio broadcast team now. A few things here. I'm very upset with the fine folks over in Minnesota. Has nothing to do with your football team. You know, the Minnesota Vikings are wonderful. We'll talk about them in a second. But Botcher, I'm not in a great mood today for a multitude of reasons, if I'm being honest. You know, got one producer who's got the sniffles he had to call out with the other one's on vacation, so that's never good. And then I have to, so I've done a lot of already my holiday like gifts that I've had to get for people. So, you know, there's like some people here that I had to take care of and get them some gift cards and things like that. But I have not yet tipped my doormen in the building that I live in. So I usually do that Christmas Eve. There's like a box and I throw it in the box. So yesterday I had to buy a new computer cover for my computer. And I'm sure you could see it right now. I do not have a new computer case cover and it's broken. Right? You could see right now if you're watching on YouTube, there's a big chip in the computer case cover. I got this new laptop in 2020. So the case lasted me all the way up until 2024 with how much I take my computer like everywhere because of work. You know, 4-year run for a computer cover is pretty damn good with all the wear and tear that it has. You would agree, Mr. Technology?
100%, yes.
Yeah. So you walk into the Mac store yesterday, right? I finished my Sunday morning football shift. I walk into the Mac store, the Apple store, the Apple store, and they didn't have any 13-inch MacBook Pro cases, only for MacBook Air 13 inches. So they said, I don't even think they had any online. One of those guys in the store was like, hey, use this website. It will save you a few dollars. Happy holidays, and basically not buying it from Apple, which is rare, but I appreciate it. And it was an employee. So I go home, right? Finish Sunday morning football, walk in the freezing cold yesterday. It felt like it was 6 degrees in New York. I'm all bundled up, had my cold brew, right? Because I'm cold brew 365, black cold brew, no milk, no sugar in it. And I get to the Apple store. Takes me about 25 minutes to get there. It's about 3 blocks from my apartment, coming here from our studios. And they tell me that they don't have any of these cases. So then I walk the 3 blocks back to my apartment from Apple, sit down for the 1 o'clock games. I find a case and I order it. Now I'm sitting there and I'm like, am I going to use my debit card or am I going to use my credit card? And usually I would just use my credit card. But for some reason, for whatever the reasons were yesterday, I used my debit card. So they make the charge. It still costs you $40 to go get a cover. So much for saving money. And then $5 for shipping. So I don't think anything of it, right? And it's a reputable website. I bought things from this website before. So it's not as if it was just some fugazi website and they got me. So I go to take out money today to go tip my doorman. Or at least take out the cash, going to put in a card, write a nice little card, and then slip it in the box down in the lobby of where I live. So I go to see my debit card, and I see like a good chunk of money was missing. And I go, well, I just paid my rent, and that's direct deposit. I had a Verizon bill, but I go, it didn't add up. And we just got paid on Friday, and I don't keep a lot in my checkings anyway, because I put most of it in my savings, or I put most of it in a different account in a high yield saving. So I look at the pending charges. $1,600 missing from my account on a purchase at a Best Buy in Minnesota. $1,600. So now I call my credit card company and my debit card at my bank, and they go, well, we could overnight you a new card, but your account's going to lock until you activate that new card because we got to cancel the old card because you don't want someone spending all your money. And they go, because of the holiday, we think it would be able to get to you by tomorrow, but if it doesn't get to you by tomorrow, you may got to wait till Thursday or Friday. So now I don't have my debit card. So I couldn't even take out any, because I never held any cash on me. I wanted to get a haircut today. Couldn't even take out money to get a haircut. Couldn't even take out money to tip my doorman. I still have my credit card, so, I'll be able to use that. But this idea that some pain in the ass in Minnesota just took $1,600, and then the bank's like, oh, it's pending, so it hasn't gone through yet. I'm like, I bet you it's going to go through. And they go, oh, we'll let you know in 3 to 7 days. If it goes through, we issue a credit to your account, and we start an investigation. If it doesn't go through, the money will just go back into your account. But it's a great inconvenience. But that's the life of hackers.
Is it not obvious that you're in New York and they're in Minnesota and it's not you?
Right. And do you know how many times I'll either swipe my debit card or my credit card and it will bounce back right away and I'll get a fraud alert? Like, I'll be getting a cup of coffee, or I'll be going and getting like a bacon, egg, and cheese at the deli, and I'll get an alert, fraud alert, fraud alert. But when they spend $1,600 in Minnesota, they don't do any fraud alert. So just bad timing, because now my doormen are going to be giving me like the look. Oh, you haven't tipped us yet. And I'm not going to tip them tomorrow. I'm not going to tip them Wednesday. I can't tip them until I get my new debit card issued back.
It's a post-Christmas gift.
Yeah.
It's a holiday gift.
Yeah, but then I feel scummy. I know
really.
Technically you got to get it in by New Year's, so I'll be good, but I've lived in this building since 2019. So I'm sure that they're accustomed to, Zach's holiday gift happens on New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve or either Christmas Day is usually when I drop it off. So now I'm going to just feel awkward. It's going to be like the first segment of the show after I ate that cookie when my mouth was watering, and I thought it was distracting me during the entire part of the segment. So here's the message, Botcher. If the Minnesota Vikings start to bleep the bed now down the stretch, it's called karma. And I had no reason to root against Minnesota. I still am rooting for Minnesota. I like the Lions too, the Pack, I like everyone in the NFC North outside of the Bears. I like watching the Packers. I love watching the Vikings. I love watching the Detroit Lions that play yesterday, where the whole team pretend there was a fumble and they end up throwing a touchdown. That was awesome. But if the Minnesota Vikings, who only have 2 losses on the year, if they start not playing well, it's because some bozo in Minnesota took $1,600 out of my checking account from my debit card. So what do you think about that theory, Botcher?
That they're going to suck now?
Yeah. Well, it's a possibility.
Well, yeah, but they could also be, Canadian. Like, Minnesota's close to Canada.
Okay.
Maybe they're Canadian, one over the border.
Now, also, to be fair, they bought it online. They bought it from a Best Buy in Minnesota online. So I don't even know if they're actually in Minnesota, but they bought it from a Best Buy in Minnesota online, which is even more to the point that you would think the credit card company would say, hey, this is some fraudulent activity. But I guess not. Now, there have been 2 quarterbacks this year in the NFC that I think before the year, I'll raise my hand and say this one. I don't think I know. Sam Darnold. I had no confidence that he was going to be any good. Got that one wrong. Jaden Daniels, I said, the Commanders, because I love Daniels. Absolutely love Daniels. I said maybe if everything goes right, they could be a wild card team, but I still wouldn't expect it. The Washington Commanders yesterday, I know Daniels only had 2 interceptions, and then the rest of the team had three other turnovers. So there was 5 total turnovers in that game. And I get it. Kenny Pickett was in for Jalen Hurts, who had a concussion, and the Eagles couldn't catch a cold yesterday. when you look at A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley, right? Really more so Devontae and Saquon Barkley dropping the ball. But what Jaden Daniels did yesterday was just spectacular. Your offense turns the ball over 5 times. I don't care if Kenny Pickett's the quarterback. I don't care who's dropping the football for the Eagles. For you to still win a football game after turning the football over 5 times, your offense doing so 5 times, that's unbelievable. And not that he needed a moment to lock up Offensive Rookie of the Year. Because, yes, Brock Bowers had a very good season, an incredible rookie season. You know, Bo Nix has been better than what anyone could have anticipated. But when you uplift a franchise that's been as lousy for this long and as rotten and just disgusting for this long, like the Washington Commanders, you deserve to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. So Jaden Daniels, it's weird to say he locked it up, but I guess there was still a little bit of a conversation who was going to win. He clearly is now, and he's been clearly the entire year, the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And we've seen the last 2 seasons, C.J. Stroud change a franchise overnight. Jaden Daniels change a franchise overnight. And now really, the Commanders are going to the playoffs. We know that. They're going to be a playoff team. But the question is going to be next year, can he elevate them even further? The Texans have kind of stayed the same, where they were really good last year. They won their division. They won a playoff game. Then they went home in the second round. After seeing the Texans lose to the Chiefs and other moments this year, the Texans just don't have that big game in them. Heck, they lost to the Jets, for crying out loud. So I give praise to Jaden Daniels. The guy I really got to give praise to is Sam Darnold. And I do think this is going to be one and done for Sam Darnold in Minnesota. It's going to be like the guy that hacked my debit card. It's going to be one and done in Minnesota. And you're going to get a lot of money. That's what Sam Darnold's going to have happen to him. Now, he's not going to hack my debit card. He doesn't need to do that. But Sam Darnold, he was known up until this season for his NFL career for getting mono and for seeing ghosts. That's what this dude was known for. And I get you could have the conversation, did the Jets really put him in a position to succeed? But eventually you got to wear some of that as well. Sam Darnold has greatly benefited from having Kevin O'Connell as his coach. He has greatly benefited from having Justin Jefferson as a receiver and the multitude of weapons that they have with the Minnesota Vikings. But that's not a knock on Sam Darnold. For a young quarterback to succeed, you need a good head coach and you need talent around him. You know, it's very tough to succeed if you're playing with like 10 other bums on the offensive side of the ball. So Sam Darnold has been really damn good this year. Better than I thought he could ever be. I would have never thought we'd be sitting here coming off of Week 16 talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Once again, Minnesota! Who would have thought we'd be talking about them getting the number 1 overall seed possibly? But with all that being said, the Vikings to me have a plan. And the Vikings' plan is to sort of cut corners in giving out a ridiculously large contract to the quarterback position. They drafted J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy also benefited from a really good system at Michigan. So I think they're going to let Sam Darnold walk. He'll go get his 36, 37, 38, which is now a bargain, $1 million a year for an NFL quarterback, maybe even upwards to 40. And I do believe that they're going to pay next to nothing next year on a rookie contract for J.J. McCarthy to be the guy. And will the Vikings probably regress in some capacity? Yes. I don't think the Vikings next year we're going to be sitting here with them only having 2 or 3 losses on the season. But their system is set up to succeed. And really, Justin Jefferson, he's in that conversation maybe as the most valuable non-quarterback in the league. Because you look at the Eagles, they're loaded. I know Saquon's phenomenal. But they also got A.J. Brown. They also got Devontae Smith. You know, they also got Jalen Hurts, and you see his value the other day when he's not able to be in, and Dexter Henry's guy, Kenny Two Gloves. It wasn't as horrible as what people are saying. I thought he was fine. Catch the ball, Devontae Smith, but he was in the game. But you, like, hey, T.J. Watt, extremely valuable. We know that with the Steelers. But you look at Justin Jefferson, he gets his own, he has no ego, and he also opens up the field for everybody else to eat. And that throw by Darnold, it was a great escape, great mobility, the game-winning touchdown, and it was a great catch by Justin Jefferson. That kind of encapsulates what the Vikings are this year. And the 3 best teams in the NFC, and you could order them any way you want now. For a while, we just said, it's just the Eagles and the Lions. The Vikings are right there in that conversation. And they end the season with the Packers and also the Detroit Lions. But those three teams are clearly the three best teams in the NFC in whatever order you want. The Eagles, the Lions, and also the Vikings. But Darnold, I think, is going to be somewhere else next year because this is what Minnesota's doing by design. If they made it work with Sam Darnold, I think they're going to believe they can make it work with J.J. McCarthy as well. You cut corners at the quarterback position in terms of cost, and you spend it everywhere else. So very, very, very much so impressed with Jaden Daniels and Sam Darnold. We'll take a timeout. We'll come on back with the news brief. Did you watch, by the way, yesterday, Dexter Henry? Because I know you are Mr. Pitt. Hail to Pitt. I was happy with their football season this year for the most part.
Well, I won't say I was happy with it. I was disappointed.
It was a solid season.
I mean, if you told me at the beginning of the year they would have won 7 games, yeah, I would have signed for it.
Yeah.
But you started off 7-0. You wanted to end a little better than that. But
yeah, they had some crazy comebacks earlier in the year.
Yeah,
Backyard brawl.
Backyard brawl, which was, listen, they beat West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's what you need. That's what you need to happen. That made the year for me. And
the Clemson one was disappointing because they should have won that
yes, I think that one was disappointing, absolutely. But look, I think you're right. When you look at it overall, it's fine. Did I watch the bowl game?
No, do you watch Kenny Two Gloves yesterday?
No, I did not watch Kenny Two Gloves yesterday.
Okay.
I did not watch Kenny Two Gloves yesterday.
Man.
I'm happy for him. He played all right.
Yeah, it's weird. A lot of people are like, he sucks. He was terrible. I'm not a huge fan of Kenny Pickett as an NFL quarterback, but considering the circumstances, he made a throw at the end of the game that Devontae Smith was right in his hands. He catches the ball, game's over.
Should have caught the ball. He made the throw.
Yeah.
You can't kill Kenny Pickett. I didn't watch the game to be fully transparent, but you can't put that loss on him.
Yeah. Also, you Steelers. Can we stop pretending like this team is a contender?
Here we go.
Here we go. But am I wrong?
Well, who said they were a contender? Who's saying this?
Well, when they started, it's like a few years ago. Remember they were undefeated?
Oh, yeah, okay. This is three seasons ago.
Yeah, three seasons ago. It's the same thing. When you're winning all those games, I'm not saying you were saying it, but there was a contingent of Steelers fans who were like,
I didn't believe that.
Who were like, hey, the NFL's open this year. We keep on winning games.
It's funny. This is just me saying this. I think where they are what they are. Now, could they have won the game against the Ravens the other day? Sure. Mm-hmm. Russ had his worst game at the worst time, right?
And he fumbled.
He throws the pick six. Terrible. Can't have that. Mm-hmm. The Steelers also couldn't recover fumbles that they had. They get those, it changes the game.
So you're a realistic Steelers fan. You're kind of in the line of thinking of they are what they've been really ever since the 2016 season, where they win a ton of regular season games, overachieve probably from what the expectation is going in, but then come playoff time, they're not winning.
I did think that this year people had them rated a little too low. Like places where I saw they had them at last in the AFC North, I was like, nah, that's crazy. I thought that was crazy. I'm not surprised the Steelers are in a position to win this division. That I'm not surprised about. Do I trust them to go on the road and beat Buffalo or Kansas City? No.
Gotcha.
No,
okay.
I don't think so. Can they win a home game?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
I saw that they could have beat the Browns a few years ago in a home game, too. How'd that work out?
You had to take it there.
Sorry. You give a mouse a cookie, he wants a glass of milk.
Yeah, they gave you one day.
We'll get to a news brief next. Standing by with the latest update, one of my favorites around here, the great Dexter Henry.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, we're going to lead this one off with news from the world of baseball. According to multiple reports, Walker Buehler and the Red Sox, they're in agreement on a one-year, $21.05 million contract, a two-time All-Star. He recorded the final out of the 2024 World Series for the Dodgers. Now, he's heading to Boston, where he'll join the team loading up on starting pitching. Jock Peterson and the Rangers, they've agreed to a two-year, $37 million contract. Peterson spent last year with the Diamondbacks as a designated hitter, and his new deal has an opt-out after the first year. Left-hander Sean Manaea, he's returning to Flushing, Queens. Manaea and the Mets have agreed to a three-year, $75 million contract. Let's take a look at what's going on the hardwood later tonight. The team with the best record in the Western Conference and the best defensive rating in the NBA, that would be the Oklahoma City Thunder. They'll look to make it 8 straight wins as they host the Wizards. They're the team with the worst offensive rating in the league. I'm Dexter Henry.
855-212-4227. That's the number to get in touch with us, the Infinity Sports Network. Give us a call, 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, let's start things off with Kirk Herbstreit. He's going to dominate this news brief. This was him on Sports Center over the weekend. This was his biggest takeaways from week 1 of the college football playoff.
That I hope next year the committee won't get caught up in what the social media and a lot of people who are fringe fans get caught up in, which is wins. They had 11 wins. They must be good. Who did they beat? I think is much more important than how many wins you have. That's old school way of approaching it. Indiana having 11 wins and beating nobody, that doesn't mean they're one of the 12 best teams. Remember, I know, Linda, I'm not taking this out on you, but there's a big difference between deserving and best.
Yeah.
What this is all about is giving us the best 12 teams.
So Alabama beat Georgia. Just because they beat Georgia, they deserve to go? Does it not matter that Alabama lost to to Oklahoma? Does it not matter that Alabama lost to Vanderbilt? So it's some of those things where, yes, you could have Alabama, who had 2 wins this year, South Carolina and Georgia, that were their 2 best wins. But does that mean they have to go? And you could just lose 3 other games and not be held accountable for it? So that's my problem. Yes, the wins do matter. And yes, you could get to a point where you're comparing quality of wins, but you got to be somewhat close. And when SMU, up until the conference championship game, only lost 1 game, and you also had Indiana only lost 1 game on the season, there's not enough to get Alabama or Ole Miss in over an Indiana or over an SMU, because you still got to get on somewhat of a similar playing field in terms of how many wins and losses there are. If it's a discrepancy of 1, and not factoring in some team that lost in conference championship weekend, that's a little bit different. All righty, let's continue with Kirk Herbstreit. This was him and Chris Fowler. They commented on First Take and Ohio State fans calling out Ryan Day before the Tennessee game. ESPN.
I can't
Forgive and forget that one.
I can't speak on behalf of the lunatic fringe. I'm not sure how they operate. Yeah, the lunatic fringe at Ohio State is as powerful as anywhere in the country.
How big is the fringe?
It used to be 8 to 10. I think it's grown now to about 15 to 20. So I don't know. I'm sure they'll be happy tonight, be fired up about what the Ohio State team did. But God forbid they lose to Oregon. They may want to fire him again.
But that's not reality. I mean,
No.
that's the thing. When you hear pundits on this network and other places talk about that with certainty, it's nonsense, frankly. I mean, the public doesn't pull the trigger and get rid of the coach.
No.
The administrators do, and they're behind them.
Yeah. First Take tried to fire him. They thought he was done. So I'll be excited to see what they talk about on Monday after this performance.
So I find a lot of things funny there. Number one, they're talking about how the public can't get a coach fired or the public can't dictate who they hire. They were doing an Ohio State-Tennessee game. Years ago, Tennessee fans heard that Greg Schiano was going to be the coach, and they protested that, and Tennessee didn't hire Greg Schiano. So the public can play a role. And I like Chris Fowler. When Temple played Notre Dame and he was doing that game, he was very kind to me, came on campus. I kind of showed him around campus at Temple University, came into the student radio station, and did like a 20-minute interview with me. So I'm a Chris Fowler fan. I'm also a Kirk Herbstreit fan. But this idea, when announcers lecture the public for wanting a coach to be gone and say it's unrealistic, that's absurd. Like Holly Rowe did the same thing. She was appalled that people were saying, oh, Ryan Day should be fired. I get it. Ryan Day's lost a lot of games. But the game is so important there, and he's lost the game 4 times when the guy that came before him, Urban Meyer, never lost to Michigan. So this being like a foreign concept that a fan base was annoyed, give me a break. No one should be upset with Ohio State fans putting some pressure on Ryan Day. But Shannon Sharp heard those comments. They were attacking First Take, and this was him earlier this morning on First Take, Fire him back.
Even though I'm going to let it slide. I'm going to be a good teammate. I'm going to let it slide. Everybody's at ESPN, because had you not taken the route you taken, I would have lit their ass up. But I'm going to let it slide. You know what, guys? Congratulations, Ohio State. You won the game. But, hey, if we're going to be on the same team, if we're going to work for the same network, don't do that. Kurt, Chris Fowler, I promise you, if you ever mention anything, any platform that I'm on again and talking about, I wonder what they're going to say in negativity, I promise you, ESPN ain't got enough bosses to keep me off y'all for what I'm going to say. So I'm going to let y'all slide today. I'm going to turn it over to D.O. before I get myself in trouble. But don't play with me.
Well, Shannon Sharp's very good at his job, right? Makes a lot of money, highly compensated to be on TV, and also makes a ton of money with his podcast. We want truthful Shannon there. Say what you wanted to say. Don't just make an empty threat, oh, executives will hold me back. I thought that was lame by Shannon Sharp. And also, it's amazing, a guy like Shannon Sharp who grew up in locker rooms where there's a lot of ribbing that goes on anyway, he gets so sensitive because Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit called him out, called First Takeout. Like, that's fun. That's healthy. You know, that should happen. I'm a part of a network. You go call out someone for a take or you argue back and forth. I don't think that's a bad thing. This ESPN feud that happened, I thought was really good theater, and I thought it was really funny in both ways. And I put this tweet out there that Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, and Holly Rowe thought it was nonsense to talk about Ryan Day's job status after losing to Michigan. It wasn't at all. And then Stephen A., who you didn't hear there, but he also went off, and Shannon Sharp freaking out over what was said about them is rich as well. That's so weird. I thought that was a very bizarre response from Shannon Sharp, but it goes both ways. You could call out Ryan Day to be fired, and you shouldn't be shamed for it. And then Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, and I guess also Holly Rowe have every right to go defend Ryan Day. But I think if you had a brain when talking about college football and you saw 40,000 Tennessee fans at Ohio Stadium, a fan base that has turned a little bit on the coach, if Ryan Day would have lost that game to Tennessee, I don't care what the athletic director said. I don't care what Urban Meyer said in the past. I don't care what Ryan Day has said. If you think that it would be 100% that Ryan Day would have been back if he lost to Tennessee, I just don't believe that. But he won the game. He blew him out. And now it's a new day for Ryan Day. We'll get to more of Ryan Day and all the college football playoff next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Jordan Faison from the Notre Dame football team is going to join us coming up 20 minutes from now. Ben Leber, Minnesota Vikings former linebacker, now part of their radio broadcast, is going to join us an hour from now. A whole lot more to do. Our poll question today, which you can always find on the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Which team impressed you the most this weekend in college football? Is it Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, or Penn State? Super early returns. 11% say Penn State. 14% say Texas. 21.3% do say Notre Dame. And then the overwhelming majority, 53.7%, they do rock and roll with Ohio State. We'll get to that answer of mine coming up in just a second. But, you know, I always think it's a good thing when you do a radio show that you're in the news and that you make news. I've always looked at that as a good thing. You got to entertain on the air during the 3-4 hours that you have to do the show. And then content that you provide to the listeners, I always think it's good to get the show's name out there when you provide content that is compelling enough and newsworthy enough to get picked up and written about in other places or talked about in other places. And I will say this, you know, not to just toot my own horn, but we provide a lot of content for other shows and for other writers to write about. But sometimes, like, things get written about where they're not taken exactly in context the right way. So, for example, we had Dan Lanning on the show last week, and this was the way that it was done properly. This website called Awful Announcing, which everyone's familiar with if you're in the media world. We had Dan Lanning on. Dan said, hey, I used to be interested in wanting to coach one day in the NFL. That's not the case anymore. I'm never leaving Oregon. Right? As long as they want me here, I will be here. He said something along those lines. So Awful Announcing, they take that clip, they reposted it, they gave us credit. That's really good. But I'm not upset with this one, but I laughed at it. A website called Browns Nation. So last week, I had a take about Myles Garrett, where I heard Myles Garrett speak to the media. And Myles Garrett basically said, I want to win, and I wanted to be here in Cleveland. I love Cleveland, but he talked about potentially having to go somewhere else, was basically the gist of his quote. So I gave a very clear and obvious take that, hey, if Myles Garrett actually wants to win, you're not going to win in Cleveland. You need to go elsewhere. You've already done the most winning one could do in Cleveland. You've in the past, you won a playoff game, right? So that's what I said. Now, when you're doing a 15-minute segment on one topic, right, there's an entertainment value part of it. And also with every radio show, there are jokes that have been made, whether it's on this show and on other shows on the network throughout the years, that there's a running bit. So I'm fully aware that when you're not in on the joke, sometimes you could hear something and the light bulb doesn't go off in your head because something you did wrong, besides you just didn't listen to the show. So I put out this clip on social media like we do as a repurposed material on this show and then put it out on social media. And the headline was, if Myles Garrett truly wants to win, then he needs to force a trade from the Cleveland Browns. But in that clip, I said, and I'm the guy on the radio that says, here we go, Brownies, here we go, hoo, hoo. So this website, Browns Nation, I guess thought I was a massive Cleveland Browns fan. So I'll get to their writing in just a second. But for anyone that's not in on the joke, there was a few years ago when I was actually hosting, it was Eye on Football, right? The 8-hour show on the network where you go from stadium to stadium, stadium to stadium around the league. And you get all the highlights, you get all the touchdowns, you talk to players after the game. And I was sick. I was under the weather. Now, I showed up to work. I still did my job. I still talked for 8 hours. But I was under the weather. And I didn't have my normal Zach Gelb energy that day. So the Browns are winning, and I go, oh, let's go out to Cleveland. I think it was John Bazika, who was our stringer at the time. And after he gave his report, I was like, oh, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof. So at the time, our morning show with Damon Amendola, at the time, the DA show, when he was there, DA was listening to Eye on Football, and right, that's kind of healthy. This is not Shannon Sharp against Kirk Herbstreit. DA would play clips of us, we would play clips of them, and we'd all share a laugh. So that became a thing, and I even called the hotline when Mraz was producing that show, and I started growling like I was a rabid dog or something like that, and I was going nuts. So that's always been, if you know either the DA community or the Zach Gelb community, right, and you've been listening, whether it was CBS Sports Radio or the Infinity Sports Network, you get that joke. So I understand when some random guy who's just trying to get more clicks on his website, which is fine, and we appreciate the article, write whatever you want. I've never really cared what you write. As long as you're writing and as long as you're talking about us, you want to say you love it, you want to say you hate it, I don't care. You got to have thick skin in order to do this job. But I did get a chuckle out of this article. So it says analyst. I always love when they refer to me as an analyst. Analyst Zach Gelb effectively urged Garrett to leave in a recent video he shared on X. Quote, if you want to win, I would have said, hey, get out of Cleveland. And I'm someone that says on the radio, here we go, Brownies, here we go, hoo, hoo. But if you then also want to win and play after January, then you got to hit the road, Jack, Gelb said. Gelb might be a massive Browns fan and gets paid to talk about the team, but he also wants to be realistic. The team didn't instill much confidence this season, and unless they turn things around quickly, their Super Bowl window might not be open for the foreseeable future. In Gelb's mind, Garrett should get out while he still can, hoping to find better success with a new team. Woof, woof. Yes, there we go. That was the infamous clip. So I always find it funny when an inside joke and a joke in a community then gets written about in a serious tone of nature. And there's someone that's sitting here reading Browns Nation, and they're saying, man, we have this national radio host in Zach Gelb who's a big Browns fan. And then they'll call me. They'll call me one day. Someone in Cloud, I know you're a big Browns fan. I've been accused of being an Eagles fan. I've been accused of being a Cleveland Browns fan because I do the Here We Go Brownies, Here We Go. Eagles because when I lived in Philadelphia, I was the first voice on the air on 97.5 The Fanatic doing the postgame after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I get accused of being a lot of fans of teams that I don't even root for. Fans of teams that I don't even root for. Now, I'm not anti-Cleveland Brown. I'm not anti-Philadelphia Eagles, but my teams, we've been through this. I'm a Met fan. I'm a Patriot fan. I'm a Ranger fan. Those are my three teams. When it comes to the professional sports. In college, it's a little complicated. I went to Temple, so I root for Temple. I also root for Michigan. I will support Nebraska football. Wherever Matt Rule goes, I will support just because of a relationship that I had with Matt at Temple University. So it's just kind of one of those things where I find it funny, Botcher, that now there's an article written about me, a whole article, and it's like even a Browns fan like that Zach Gelb is trying to get Myles Garrett out of Cleveland because he wants better for Myles Garrett. I'm a longtime fan of the Cleveland Browns. And I said, here we go again. It's the Cleveland Browns, and it's 1st and 10. I'm a big Browns fan, Botcher.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because now they can't blame you for being a Patriots fan.
No, you're not wrong whatsoever. All righty. Let me give praise to someone that I don't like to give praise to. And I was very impressed by him this weekend. That was Ryan Day in Ohio State. Now, it's still championship or bust for Ryan Day in Ohio State. If they would have lost to Tennessee, I would have been the first one. I would have been the first one in front of a microphone the moment after that game, dancing on the grave of Ryan Day and saying, hey, he needs to be fired. I don't know if they would have fired him, but when you have all those Tennessee fans in your stadium, you just lost to Michigan 3 weeks ago, and you haven't beat Michigan in the last 4 times. If you would have lost the opening round with how much talent and how much money that you've spent on that talent on that roster, even though your record is impeccable when you just look at the record with no context, I still would have said he should have been fired. I don't know if he would have, though. But how do you stop a bad narrative? Well, with what you can control, when the ball is kicked off, you not only win, but you beat the living snot out of Tennessee. And I was most disappointed with Tennessee this weekend because I thought that was going to be the one game that definitely was going to be a good game. Even after seeing Texas, Clemson be ho-hum, Notre Dame, Indiana being boring, Penn State, SMU being boring, I was like, they got to give us one good game, right? And you had Ohio State, you had Tennessee. Ohio State, there was a big mental question going into this game. Tennessee with Sampson, who got hurt early on, a very good defense on paper. You know what? When the Tennessee players came running onto the field with no shirts on, trying to say, oh, we don't give a rat's ass about the cold, usually I would say, oh, I'm going to pick against that team because you're trying too hard. But I was like, oh, boy, they don't fear Ohio State whatsoever. And then it was also all the videos, too, online where you had Rocky Top and all those fans being there. That looked like a Tennessee home game right before the ball was kicked off. Even Kirk Herbstreit said there was 40,000 fans. Tennessee fans, that's what he guesstimated, that were in that stadium at Ohio Stadium. So I picked Tennessee to win a close one at the end of the week. I thought Tennessee was going to win. And hand up, I couldn't have been more wrong. Tennessee got absolutely dominated in that game. And Nico Iamaleava was fine running the football, did not do well passing. The Tennessee defense was absolutely abused. And Ohio State went through them like a hot knife through butter. And I credit the Ohio State coaching staff, who the biggest reason they lost the Michigan game was just pure arrogance. It was pure arrogance. It was so caught up in their minds and their cabezas, what Jim Harbaugh said about being born on third base, having a tough football team, just lining up in the trenches and running, that they forgot about Smith, they forgot about Ibuka, and then early on, it was just big throw after big throw to those two stellar, and I mean stellar wide receivers. So when you look at all the outcomes from this weekend, Ohio State beating up on Tennessee, Texas beating Clemson, Notre Dame also beating Indiana, Penn State beating SMU, I think it's clear and obvious when you look at the opponents that lost, that Tennessee on paper was the best opponent. And for Tennessee to get just dismantled by Ohio State, and Ohio State, where it really could have gone the other way, wondering where they were going to be at mentally after just getting embarrassed by Michigan, even though the game was close, but Michigan can't even throw the football forward, and you still couldn't beat them. I didn't know, and I was uncertain, and I thought it was really 50-50 what Ohio State team was going to show up. But Ohio State this past weekend up against Tennessee, it's not a championship one yet because you're going up against Oregon, and I see the Ducks are an underdog, and I think that doesn't make any sense. But Ohio State had their moment where they showed you, okay, we play this way, we could win a national championship this year. Now, let's see if they go get 3 more victories, because you got to beat Oregon, and that is a national championship feel. Even if you beat Oregon, you have to take the winner of Texas and Arizona State, and then you get the 4 teams remaining in a championship game if you do get to a championship game, which is going to be the bottom part, which is Penn State, Boise State, and then Notre Dame and Georgia. One of those teams would be the team in the championship game. So it's a long ways to go still for Ohio State, but they took a big first step, and I mean a massive first step with what they just did show over the weekend. And I love to dance in the grave of Ryan Day. He coached a very good game, and that's how he should have coached up against Michigan, but for whatever reason, he sees Michigan and he urinates down his leg. Now, if I had to order the most impressive teams from this weekend out of the 4 winners, right now the poll results say Ohio State's 1 at 53.9%, Notre Dame's 2 at 22%, Texas is 3 at 13.5%, and then Penn State is 4th at 10.6%. I understand they have 3 losses, but they did win the ACC in that conference championship game. I thought the next best opponent was actually Clemson. So how well-rounded Texas was, not that you'll walk away saying Texas is now definitely going to win the national championship game, but the way they ran the ball, had 2 100-yard rushers, and the interception wasn't his fault, but Quinn Ewers did a good job managing the game. I would say I was most impressed by Ohio State. Second most impressed this past weekend was Texas. After that, Notre Dame. Now, I went into this year with Notre Dame. I can't say this year, into the college football playoff with Notre Dame. I was confident. I picked Notre Dame when we did the picks on Friday to go to the national championship game and to eventually lose to Oregon, I think by a score of 31-20 or something like that. I put out the prediction. And I've been saying Xavier Watts and Jeremiah Love. Those are the 2 I can't shut up about those 2 players. And we've had them both on the show, fun interviews, good conversations. And right out of the gate, Xavier Watts gets the interception, and then Jeremiah Love fires it upfield for a 98-yard touchdown. That was a complete performance by Notre Dame. Now, I never thought they were actually going to lose to Indiana, so the opponent does factor in. But Notre Dame could absolutely beat Georgia. And I'm picking them. I picked them on Friday to beat Georgia when they would get through. Why would I then not pick them coming up the rest of the week and lead into early next week, because that game is going to be on New Year's Day at 8:45 p.m. Eastern time. So I think, hey, I get it with Notre Dame. I have never been someone in the history of this network that has been a believer in Notre Dame, but this year I'm believing that Notre Dame could go beat a big-time opponent, and Georgia's a big-time opponent, even though Gunnar Stockton's going to be their starting quarterback. And then in that 4th was Penn State. And Penn State had a very good 2 pick sixes right out of the gate. Warren's a stud. Abdul Carter is phenomenal. But I never thought that they were going to lose to SMU, if I was being honest. So that's how I'd rank them 1 through 4, the teams that I were most impressed by this weekend. Ohio State 1, Texas 2, because I was down on Texas a little bit entering the playoff. Notre Dame 3, and then Penn State. What say you? 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Right now, when you answer those poll results on the question, 53.9% once again say Ohio State. 22% say Notre Dame. 13.5% say Texas, and 10.6% do say Penn State. We'll take a timeout, but before we take a timeout, let me just tell you that it's time to ask the pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. When we return on the Zach Gelb Show from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He's a national champion already in lacrosse. Scored 22 goals. Last year, walked on the football team, was their bowl game MVP, and now he just led the team in reception in the 12-team college football playoff, securing a victory for Notre Dame over Indiana. You'll have Notre Dame and Georgia coming up on New Year's Day. Jordan Faison will join us when we return in 5 minutes right here, only on the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break.
All righty, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast.
Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's hear a little bit about Jordan Faison right now. He's won a national championship with Notre Dame for lacrosse. Now he's trying to do so as well with the football team. And Jordan got off to a very strong start in the college football playoff, reeling in 7 catches for 89 yards plus a 43-yard trick kick return in a victory up against Indiana. Now the Fighting Irish on New Year's Day will be moving on, and they'll be going up against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. And now joining us is Jordan Faison. Jordan, first off, congratulations. Appreciate you doing this. Thanks so much. And how you been?
I've been doing good. Had a good game up past days, and been chilling.
Well, now going to a 12-team college football playoff, you know this, the first round, there are 4 home games to be played. That atmosphere on Friday evening to kick the whole thing off in South Bend just looked unbelievable. Kind of take me through your perspective of the atmosphere playing in it.
Yeah, it was definitely electric. Coming out of the tunnel to obviously the sound, and it was amazing seeing the field, everyone with the little rally towels. We haven't had that before, and it was awesome to see. And then throughout the game, they were loud. You couldn't really hear yourself during the game, and that's what you want out of your home stadium. So it was awesome.
And it was loud to start, and it got even louder early on when Xavier Watts, one of the best defensive players in the country, had that interception, and then boom. What else can Jeremiah Love do at this stage with that 98-yard touchdown? That was really some sequence for you guys.
Right.
So let me ask you on Friday night, when you guys end up going out there and playing in this game, just what kind of message do you guys think you sent with the way that you guys were able to take care of Indiana?
Yeah, we just wanted to show the entire world that we were able to play good football, and I feel like we did that. We've worked week in, week out, preparing for this game, and we went out there and showed it, and that's what we wanted to do.
You look back at your season. I know that, right? It's Notre Dame. It's a national brand. Everyone watches you. But with what happened after A&M to NIU, a lot of people counted you guys out. Looking back at it, that game against Northern Illinois, you guys haven't lost the game since. Why didn't that game not break this team when it easily could have?
I think having that loss kind of showed who we were. You see who people are at their lowest moments. And not breaking showed what we had, the potential we had. And, the team came together. Practice that week was phenomenal after that. And, having that loss kind of, in our back pocket, I would say throttled us throughout the entire season. So I'd definitely say we needed that loss. And, it was almost a blessing. And, yeah, we used that as a strength to keep moving forward.
And Jordan Faison here with us. Obviously, after that game, there was a lot of criticism directed the way of your quarterback. Clearly, with his back up against the wall, Riley Leonard has clearly grown this year and down the stretch at Notre Dame. Just what have you kind of seen change with him really over the last few weeks where he starts to get more and more respect around the country?
Yeah, we have a brotherhood over here at Notre Dame. He's got our back. We got his back. We'll back him no matter what. Throughout this season, he's just only been progressing, He's been working with everybody more, been playing better around everybody, and, that's what you want. And, with him leading us, we play better around him, and that's all you could ask for is a guy that'll bring your whole team up with him.
Why was Indiana for you, when you look at your individual performance, 7 catches for 89 yards, such a favorable matchup looking back at it?
I was just able to, throughout practice, we had our plays, we were dialing up plays, and getting onto that field, it was kind of whatever opportunities come your way, make the most of them. Obviously, I had the first ball I had was a drop, but not letting that alter me. I kind of, kept playing the game. Whatever opportunity came to me, had to make the most of it, and I was able to do that.
And then coming out of halftime, you guys wanted to put the foot right back on the gas pedal. Going into that play on the flip to you, and then you had the 43-yard kick return. Kind of take us through that one because that was a fun way that you guys really devised up that play. Yeah, no, we had to practice that throughout the entire week. Kind of had it set up. We got our first kick return look, kind of saw it, thought it would work. And, come out of halftime, Coach Biaggi comes up, it's like, yeah, we're going to run the play. And I was like, all right, bet, let's go. Got onto the field, it worked to perfection, so couldn't ask for anything more. Jordan Faison here with us. Notre Dame off to round number 2 where they'll be going up against Georgia on New Year's Day in the Sugar Bowl. I love your story, and I think your story is so cool. For people that don't know, right, you went to Notre Dame on a lacrosse scholarship. You had 22 goals. You won a national championship. You ended up walking on the football team last year, got a football scholarship, won the Sun Bowl MVP, and now you're in the college football playoff. Just kind of take us through that road that you've traveled and some of the work that goes in behind the scenes to get the production that we saw on Friday night. Yeah, I would say it's definitely been a journey, man. This entire process from getting on campus Notre Dame to, playing in my first games, getting onto the lacrosse side of the ball, winning a championship. It's all just been a blessing, just takes hard work, dedication, keeping my head down, being around my teammates boost me, I boost them, kind of that back and forth relationship. And then I was able to, take the opportunities I was given to make things happen. I was able to do it. Couldn't thank anybody more than God. And just being able to put things together and, it's been an amazing ride. Now, I've heard Coach Freeman say before you've had football offers and you elected to go to Notre Dame for lacrosse. They have an exceptional program, and clearly you've made it work out on the football team, working your way up. Why was Notre Dame, looking back at it through the process, the right choice for you?
Yeah, at first, I got recruited for lacrosse my junior year, so I was before football offers started coming in. But I had no idea about Notre Dame, didn't think anything much of them. They were my second visit. And then I got up here for a game. It was a Clemson game, and, seeing all of that in its glory, it was just, you could not come to Notre Dame, you know what I'm saying? And, the 4 for 40 kind of aspect of it with a school, and then being able the possibility to play both sports, it was just, couldn't pass it up. And then, nowhere else offered that.
Now, I'm not that familiar with the scholarship process, but you had a lacrosse scholarship, and then you eventually, last year, early on in the football season, I think it was October, got a football scholarship. When you got that football scholarship and you were rewarded for that hard work, just what did it kind of mean to you?
It was definitely amazing. I think my parents might have felt it a little more because they got to save a little bit of their money. But no, it was awesome. It showed the hard work that I put in paying off, and, it was a blessing. I loved it.
How do you have the motor for this stuff? 22 goals in the lacrosse season. You win a national championship coming off a football season, and now you're right back in it in year number 2 for Notre Dame football, trying to win a national championship.
Yeah, I'd say just playing for the guys next to you, wanting to be great for them, just allows you to go out there and perform the way you need to. And, that kind of vice versa relationship shows the same thing. And, that brotherhood we have here on both sports, football and lacrosse, just playing for that guy next to you, just propels you and everybody else around you.
How does football help you with lacrosse, and how does lacrosse help you with football? Just wondering.
Yeah, obviously athletic piece, footwork and hand-eye coordination go back and forth. But the bigger piece, I would say, is, in lacrosse and football, you have a guy guarding you. I'd say you have DB in lacrosse and DB in football and the defender in lacrosse. And you kind of going against that guy, then also looking back, reading defenses. In football, like safeties coming at you or spinning, and then also in lacrosse, you got sliding defenders coming. So that kind of aspect, they both go hand in hand, and they help tremendously in both.
So 22 goals in your first season in lacrosse. You win a national championship. You scored in the national championship game. When you look back at that experience, just what are still the memories? I know not that far removed from being able to do that right away.
Yeah, it was definitely surreal. In the moment, it didn't feel real after you won a national championship. But after you kind of go back and watch the videos, and it's just like dang, we really did that. And, it kind of shows obviously all that hard work, throughout the long season, being able to put it together and kind of show the world the team we had and the players we had. And it was just an amazing feeling. Can't be beat.
You watch the game on Friday night. Clearly, we see what you're capable of as a football player. Like I mentioned, you won the Sun Bowl MVP, also going back to last year in the bowl game. Where do you think you are on your trajectory of becoming a great football player?
I think still got a lot of work to do, obviously. But being able to show the world what I can do is definitely awesome feeling. But yeah, a lot more work to do over here.
You talked about it with the national championship, how you maybe not have realized it in the moment, and then you see the videos. When you were walking off the field on Friday night, did you realize what you accomplished, or is it just kind of, hey, the job's not done yet, so you can't really appreciate it so far?
Yeah, same exact thing. You're walking off the field, it's like, we haven't done anything yet, so we still got to keep going.
So when you advance the page forward and you flip the page forward on New Year's Day, right, 8:45 p.m. Eastern time, you guys are going to be in New Orleans going up against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. From afar, when you start the preparation, what stands out to you about Georgia?
Obviously, they're a hard-nosed team, great team, been a good team. It's going to be a good test for us, truly. We're ready for the competition that lies ahead of us, and we're ready to work for it.
What do you guys want to prove, just wondering, in that game? Because there's still some people, when they talk about Notre Dame for the last decade or so, they go, oh, it's a good program. Obviously, it's an iconic brand. But when you get to these bigger games, it hasn't fared well. Are you guys hearing that noise? Do you hear a lot of that into the buildup for this Georgia game?
Yeah, you can't escape the noise, but we were kind of taught to tune out the noise. You obviously can't escape it. You'll see it everywhere. But tune out the noise and kind of work within our group, within our team, and kind of reach our full potential. And if we reach our full potential throughout the weeks of preparation, that'll show on game day. And that's what we want to do.
Last thing I'll ask you, Jordan Faison, his football team is going up against Georgia coming up on New Year's Day in the second round of the college football playoff. Coach Marcus Freeman, if you have to put it into words, what he means to you, how do you kind of do that?
Great guy, great leader, role model, what you want to be as a player on the field and a man off the field, and, someone we look up to and someone's going to lead us.
I appreciate you sharing your story. Thanks so much, and good luck Jordan moving forward the rest
Faison
of the
from
way.
The Notre Dame football team joining us to talk about his story. Really cool with what he did the other night and how he's improved as a football player the last 2 years, and clearly was brought to Notre Dame
to be on the lacrosse team. And not only did he win a national championship and scored a goal in their national championship victory at 22 goals on the season, he's excelled in lacrosse and then the unexpected success excelling on the football field as well. And Notre Dame, if they get 3 more victories, he'll be able to say he's a national champion in football and also add that in with being a national championship lacrosse player as well. Pretty neat stuff. Okay, we'll take a break. Botcher's got some questions for me. I'll give you some answers when we come on back. We'll do a little onsides, offsides. Still to come, by the way, in about 27 or 28 minutes from now. Ben Leber, former Vikings linebacker, now a part of their radio broadcast team. Vikings very much so in the news as they're going to try to go get the number 1 seed in the NFC, things I did not have on my bingo card before the season did start. So when Ben joins us coming up in about a half hour, we will talk not only about the present-day Minnesota Vikings, but what the heck is going to happen in their future with them drafting J.J. McCarthy 10th overall in this past NFL draft, and then Sam Darnold having this breakout season and is about to hit free agency as well. Okay, we'll take a break. When we come on back, we'll do a little onside, offside update time. Here is the Dex man, Dexter Henry.
Infinity Sports Network, Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, going to tip this one off with basketball. 14-game NBA slate tonight. The Bucks, they're going to be without their top 2 players. Milwaukee announcing today that both Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard will miss Monday's game against the Chicago Bulls with a non-COVID illness. Now, several of the Bucks players and staff members, they've been feeling under the weather following the team's victory in the NBA Cup last week. Guard A.J. Johnson and forward Chris Livingston will also miss Monday's game. The 2 hottest teams in the East, the Cavaliers and the Pacers, they will both put their 4-game winning streaks on the line tonight. Cleveland, they host the Jazz, while Indiana visits the Warriors. Over to baseball. The Mets, they're reportedly bringing back lefty starter Sean Manaea for 3 years and $75 million, while former Dodgers righty Walker Buehler, he's joining the Red Sox for $21 million for the coming season. College football. Former Georgia Tech wideout Eric Singleton Jr. is reportedly transferring to Auburn. Singleton was the top receiver in the portal. And Notre Dame defensive lineman Riley Mills will miss the rest of the season with a knee injury that he suffered during the Fighting Irish's win over Indiana in the first round of the college football playoffs. Mills led the team with 7.5 sacks. I'm Dexter Henry.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling, moving and grooving here on a Monday. We are off tomorrow and off Wednesday. Happy holidays to all, but we will be back on the air Thursday and Friday this week as we continue to gear you up for the next round of the college football playoffs and get you closer and closer to week 17 in the NFL as we have week 16 wrapping up tonight. But first up, Botcher's got some questions. I'll hopefully give you some answers, and hopefully you like what you hear. We call this segment Onside Offside, and we get things going right now.
Okay, first question. In his first start for the struggling Kirk Cousins, Falcons rookie Michael Penix Jr. for 202 yards with no touchdowns and an interception. But Atlanta still blew out the Giants, of course, 34-7 thanks to 2 defensive touchdowns and 2 more scores by Bijan Robinson. Onside, offside, you were impressed by Michael Penix's debut?
Impressed? Impressed makes it seem like I was blown away and he was spectacular. I was encouraged. It's better than watching Kirk Cousins because there's more of a purpose because you know that Michael Penix Jr. can potentially be the guy there. Kirk Cousins had an expiration date. No one really thought that the expiration date was going to happen, though, this season. So, yeah, I lean more so on the side of I was impressed because they needed a win. He was competent at the quarterback position, and I'd much rather get the ball rolling with him starting now than doing it next season, and you kind of have a spot where it may be too late already. But then with that being said, not only do you win, now you control your own destiny again because the Bucs dropped one last night up against the Dallas Cowboys. So having him there now and getting this experience, I think, is important. And we'll see if on Sunday Night Football he could beat the Commanders. And then you finish off the season with the Panthers, who, by the way, Bryce Young keeps on playing better and better. So, I don't know. Like, I don't love the word impress botcher because impress means like, oh, I love it. Oh, it's wonderful. Oh, my jaw was hitting the floor. It wasn't that, but yes. Was I satisfied with it? Sure. So I'll go on sides.
Next question. The Raiders were battling the Giants for the number 1 pick in the draft to select one of 2 coveted quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. However, things went wrong as the Raiders beat the Jaguars yesterday and fell down from number 2 to number 6.
Yeah.
After the game, reports indicated that Mark Davis was all smiles and players were happy and dancing.
Probably smoking those victory cigars again.
In Vegas, too. You know what's happening there. Onside, offside, the Raiders should still draft a quarterback in the first round if they miss out on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders.
So that's where incompetent organizations make incompetent decisions. And I feel really bad for the Raiders fans yesterday. And I did talk to Stu, because I know 3 Raiders fans. Stevie Cohen, who used to run Sirius, tremendous dude, diehard Raiders fan. My buddy Michael Allen, who I went to school with, tremendous dude, big Raiders fan. And then one of my producer extraordinaires, the great Stu Kovacs, tremendous dude, big Raiders fan. And this was the text I sent to Stu. Even when the Raiders win, they lose. Because I understand grown men aren't going to sit there and go, we're tanking. That could be an organization decision where the general manager and the owner says, oh, we want to lose games and we're not going to field a good team. Or, someone gets hurt, we're not going to rush them back. And you don't put your team in the best position to win. But when you're going up against a dreadful team, and you're a dreadful team as well, anything can happen. And the players, as long as they're on the field, because some of them are playing for their jobs next year, it's not as if players tank. I've always said that. Organizations tank. Players don't tank. But I don't love these quarterback prospects if you're not Shedeur Sanders, if you're not Cam Ward. We were talking about Carson Beck. He's now hurt. We were talking about Jalen Milroe. I don't even know if Jalen Milroe is going to declare for the draft. So none of those guys that were in the third guy conversation, because it's clearly been obviously Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. I'm not running and using a draft pick on Quinn Ewers in the first round. I think Dylan Gabriel's going to be a name, just like how Bo Nix. It's weird to say a guy that's played this many years in college football is a late bloomer. But in terms of the draft, Bo Nix did rise up the draft board higher than anyone could have thought. Maybe that happens with Dylan Gabriel as well. But if I'm the Raiders and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, okay, I can't get Shedeur Sanders, I can't get Cam Ward. If I'm the Raiders, I'll ask you this question. Would you rather have Sam Darnold or would you rather have Carson Beck? I'd rather have Sam Darnold. Would you rather have Sam Darnold or Jalen Milroe? I'd rather have Sam Darnold. Would you rather have Sam Darnold or draft Dylan Gabriel? I'd rather have Sam Darnold. So, yes, the Raiders want to get their future quarterback through the draft. That would be priority number 1. But if things don't go in their favor in the next 2 weeks, and hey, they could always trade up. You only fell down to 6. The Patriots are 2. Hey, Elliott Wolf, let's be wheeling and dealing Elliott Wolf. And you could have the Raiders pay an enormous price because they're going to be desperate for a quarterback. So that's a possibility. But your question was, the Raiders should still draft a QB in the first round if they miss out on Ward or Sanders. I would say that's a no for me, dog. I would go offside on that one because I really do think that you could use free agency and get a guy like Sam Darnold who's better than whoever that guy is for the third quarterback in this draft, because this is not a deep quarterback draft like what we've seen in years past. I don't just draft a quarterback for the sake of drafting a quarterback. You got to fall in love with the quarterback. And outside of Ward and outside of Sanders, I'm not in love with any of these quarterbacks when you look at using a first-round draft pick, especially a top 10 pick on those QBs. What about
Offside.
Okay, next up, Ben Johnson has been the hottest assistant name in the coaching circles for the last 2 years now, at least. And the Lions star OC continues to come up with creative plays. In yesterday's win over the Bears, Johnson reportedly made Jared Goff fake trip, and the team acted as the fumble occurred, prompting the defense to slow down and allow Jared Goff to throw a touchdown pass to Sam Laporta.
The whole sideline was yelling, "Ball!
Fumble!"
Because I heard that right away, because not that I had this extensive football career, but when you were playing like high school football and middle school football, whenever there was a fumble, they would tell you on the sidelines to scream fumble so everyone knows to go pounce on the football. So to use it to mock a fumble, to get the other team to kind of be caught like a deer in headlights, like the Chicago Bears, I thought was a brilliant move.
So the question is, onside or offside, Ben Johnson will be the Bears head coach next season.
He is picky. And he's starting to get picky to a fault. You better be taking a job this year, Ben Johnson. Now, I could see the Jets getting Mike Vrabel. And I think I was asked this last week, will Mike Vrabel be coaching the Jets? And I said, no, he'll be coaching the Bears. And I even said, I'm going to vacillate on that about 100 times from now until they make a decision. So, if I'm Ben Johnson, I would take the Bears job. I would. But I'm not Ben Johnson. And we all thought Ben Johnson was going to the Commanders last year, and he elected to pass in the Commanders. He keeps on talking about alignment. The Bears don't have good alignment with Ryan Poles there, the McCaskey family running the organization, and then Kevin Warren being the president. So I'm going to say Vrabel ends up getting that job, and I don't know where the heck Ben Johnson is going to be coaching next season. So Ben Johnson will be the head coach next season of the Bears. There's a chance, but right now I'm leaning a slight offside.
Offside. Okay, trouble in New York as usual. More talk
Death
about
taxes, trouble in New York with football.
While Aaron Rodgers' future is a question around the Jets, rumors are picking up about Garrett Wilson wanting out as well. First, Rich Cimini reported that he's hearing Wilson wants out, and then Wilson gave an I don't know answer to questions about his future with the team. Then yesterday, after pulling in 6 catches, 54 yards, he said this on SNY.
I don't know, to be honest with you, man. I don't know. I just got to go out and put my best foot forward and hope that things fall my way. I would love to be involved, love to make an impact on the game, but people see it differently than, that's outside of my control.
So that was him speaking on his involvement in the offense. He did not have many targets in the first half, and very late he got catches. So the question is, onside or offside, Garrett Wilson will be on another team in 2025.
So he's been in the league for 3 years. He's eligible for a contract extension. The Jets should give him that extension. But he doesn't sound like he wants to be back there. Maybe he's just fed up with Aaron Rodgers and fed up with losing, because even though he never won a national championship at Ohio State, they did a lot of winning when he was at Ohio State. Whew. Here's what I still struggle with. Was him saying, I don't know, in terms of, hey, do you want to be back with this team? And then he went on to say a bunch of right things after that, but he started off with, I don't know, which I don't care what you say after that. Was that him starting contract negotiations of, I'm going to pretend like I don't want to be here, so you give me every last penny? Or was that truly he doesn't want to be there? That's the tricky part of this, trying to decipher through that. Because there's still 2 years left on this contract, and I think Garrett Wilson will want to be one of those good guys, even if he's making a bad guy decision. I don't fault him for leaving the Jets, to be clear. I still think he'll be on the Jets to start 2025. I don't know if he'll finish this contract. I don't know if he'll get a new extension or if he'll be on the Jets at the end of 2025. But will he be on another team in 2025? I'm going to take that in terms of to start the season, so therefore I will say offside.
Offside.
Okay, the number 5 seed Texas Longhorns, who came into the playoffs 3rd in the nation in yards allowed and 2nd in points allowed, held on to be Clemson 38-24, giving up over 400 yards to Dabo's Tigers. The Vols were 7th in the nation in both those categories before getting smoked by Ryan Day and the Buckeyes for 473 yards and 42 points. Onside, offside, this weekend proved that the SEC is overrated.
So I don't think this is a banner year for the SEC, but overrated. Texas won the game. I thought they won the game by a bigger margin than what I thought it was going to be. And Tennessee got smacked by Ohio State. I don't love the bitching and complaining by Ole Miss, really Lane Kiffin this past weekend. But is the SEC overrated? It's not been a great year for them, but I don't think anyone walked into this playoff thinking Tennessee was going to run the table. And Texas had a possibility of going to a championship game. It's not inconceivable, but Georgia is their big team this year, and Georgia was obviously on a bye. We'll see what happens after Georgia goes up against Notre Dame. But to sit here right now and say the SEC is overrated, none of these conferences have been great this year, so I'm going to say offside on that one.
Offside!
And finally,
speaking of the Vols, freshman quarterback Nico Iamaleava.
No, not bad.
I know, Iamaleava. It's not that bad. Had a brutal game, throwing just 104 yards and no touchdowns, but had 2 scores on the ground. Iamaleava was the number 2 recruit in 2023, only behind Arch Manning, and had a solid season throwing for 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 5 picks. onside, offside. Iamaleava will be the Heisman finalist next year.
So he'll be a hot name. I got to see more out of him with his accuracy throwing the football. He's 6'6". He could cut on a dime and stop on a dime and really be extremely athletic running the football. I didn't love his arm. I thought he was erratic at times this year. I would say it's more likely that Arch Manning is a finalist than Iamaleava if I'm just throwing a quarterback names out there. I think Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame could also be a finalist. So I'm not ready to say, because this is what Tennessee does, have a good year, and then it's like, okay, can they repeat, have another good year, or is it just going to be a little bit, they take a step back? There's a possibility, but right now to say that he'll be a Heisman Trophy finalist, I have not seen enough to be confident in that, and I will go offside on that.
Offside.
Alrighty, that will do it for Onside Offside on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network as Tennessee got smashed by Ohio State. And that does lead us to our poll question today, which we will give you a quick update on right now before we get to Ben Leber, who's going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. Which team impressed you the most this weekend in college football? Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State. Penn State at 10.4%, Texas at 13.9%, Notre Dame at 22.2%, and the Ohio State at 53.5%. Will he stay or will he go? What's going to happen with Sam Darnold after this season? We'll tap into that Minnesota Vikings locker room. Ben Leber, former Vikings linebacker, now part of the radio broadcast. He'll join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's
4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. How about the Minnesota Vikings? Geez, they are 13-2. They had that ridiculous victory yesterday in 12th man country up against the Seattle Seahawks by a final score of 27-24. We're now talking about this team potentially getting the number 1 seed in the NFC. I would have never thought that before the year. So let's go out to the guest line right now. Welcome in a former Vikings linebacker. He's been a part of their radio network for a long time, and that's our pal, Ben Leber. Ben, I know you're probably in a good mood today, so thanks for doing this. How you been?
Zach, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, look, anytime you're a part of the team and the team wins, it's a good day. And thankfully, we've done this, a few times this year, especially when games really matter.
So there's always this thought with the Vikings, regardless of how good their record is. Yeah, but there's going to be the other shoe that falls. There's always a yeah, but. You feel like this team is different at 13-2, and they're a lot different than the team a few years ago that put us through some similar things. Why do you feel like this team is truly different being around them all the time?
It's a hard thing to really put your finger on. It's just a feeling that you have when you're around the team. There's no ego. There's no one group of guys or a group of guys that you feel like is going to sink the ship. Everybody's in it together. That whole buy-in thing that every coach talks about and they just really, really want from your locker room. I think this team bought in very, very early. And especially for a team that has a lot of different faces on the defense. And especially when you talk about Sam Darnold, that's obviously the most important position in all of sports. He's new to the team and nobody really knew how he was going to pan out. And he's done a fantastic job playing MVP level. But there is that intangible, that it factor that I think this team has. They've won in a variety of different ways. Sometimes the offense has not played very well, and sometimes the defense has not played very well. And then special teams has been consistent all throughout the year, and we got a rookie kicker as well. So there's just something super special and fascinating with this team. And let's just hope. I mean, I know things can change kind of on a dime, especially late in the season. They got 2 tough ones to close it out. Let's hopefully they can do that.
I also don't want to overlook this, and I know people in Minnesota don't, and that's the play of Justin Jefferson. He's their best player, and he's also their most valuable. And it's rare in this league that a quarterback isn't your most valuable player. You have a few other instances like TJ Watt with the Steelers, Saquon Barkley with the Philadelphia Eagles. But for a guy to be that great and never really show his ego as well, because sometimes receivers could really derail a team, and he opens up the field for everybody else, and he's still able to produce at an elite level for himself individually. I don't think you could I know they paid him a lot, but I really don't think you could put a value on what that does for a team.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, the value, Zach. And when they were talking about giving him a contract extension, I, like millions of other Vikings fans out there, were saying, just sign the guy. I mean, he's worth it. Whatever that's going to be, just sign him, because there are those intangibles that you really can't see on paper. I mean, he's a great leader in the locker room. He works hard at practice every day. He's a good mentor to a lot of the younger receivers. He's a superstar in the best possible way, where he knows it. If anybody watched the receiver show on Netflix, like, he gets it. He has self-awareness, which I gotta be honest, and I'm sure you've been around a lot of professional athletes. Some guys have it and some guys don't. And he's a superstar that actually has self-awareness. So he knows sort of when to turn on that charisma and when to turn it off. He can't be that persona all the time. He's relatable. And I think that's the best thing about him. I mean, and I'm just talking about what he does off the field and in the locker room. So I think that he's a guy that you absolutely needed to have as your core foundation for what you're building on this football team, because it resonates so far and wide beyond the wide receiver room, beyond the offense, beyond the defense and the team. It really resonates throughout the whole organization, and he gets it.
I also think a big thing, Ben Leber, too, in this new age of an era of football, where I think when it comes to coaches, we all get caught up. Is he an offensive guy or defensive guy? The really successful coaches now are the guys that are player coaches, but they're not doormats. And Kevin O'Connell is the definition of that, because he is player friendly, but when he speaks, the players also know that he means business. And he's created a really special and fun culture there in Minnesota.
Yeah, he really has. And that really, like every great coach, it's not only just finding the right players, but finding the right coaches. And I think every coach is sort of singing the same tune. And to have Brian Flores take over that defense and basically withhold the same expectations, maybe in a different style, but it's still a respected style. Guys look up to him. He relates to these players, contrary to what maybe the national thought is on Brian Flores. We've seen none of that here, and it's gonna be sad to probably lose this guy here pretty soon. But I look at KOC as, again, sort of the right blend of charisma. He can relate to the players age-wise, kind of what they're going through. All the new age players. You hear these older coaches say, like, oh, they always have to know the why. Like, can't we just tell them to do something? Well, he understands that coaching is the why. I mean, coaching is teaching, and he's a great teacher. But at the same time, don't let that SoCal smile sort of, whisk you away. I mean, he's going to hold these guys to a high standard. He demands it. And he doesn't have to rule with this iron fist. Guys just know what the expectation is and what the ramifications are if they don't withhold that.
Ben Leber here with us. When it comes to Coach of the Year, I could give you 8 to 10 guys that are worthy of the award this year. If I had to narrow that list down to 2, I think it's either going to be your guy, Kevin O'Connell, or it's going to be Dan Quinn with the Commanders and what he's done. Give me the argument why it should be Kevin O'Connell if you believe that he should be Coach of the Year.
Well, I just think you look at what the expectations were. I mean, same thing with Dan Quinn. I mean, they had lower expectations, I think, nationally. They didn't know what they had out of their quarterback. But I think when you look at where we've gone with Sam Darnold, who everybody thought was a castaway, everybody thought that his career was over. The reclamation project that's taken place is unbelievable. It's hard to really put into words. And again, you look at the way that they rebuilt the defense. They've completely surpassed what the expectations were. Now they're fighting for a chance to win the division and be the number 1 seed and get that bye week. I mean, there's a level of success that the Commanders have had, but I look at what KOC's done, and he's even elevated that even higher to put the team and the organization in the position that they're in right now. So, the proof's in the pudding, and he's certainly been in the kitchen cooking.
I know you said it's tough to put it into words what Sam Darnold has done this year, but how do you try to attempt to put it into words? Because, hey, I live in New York. I was here when Sam Darnold was known for getting mono and seeing ghosts, and he was a complete afterthought. And what he's done this year, I pinch myself because it's just unbelievable to see.
Yeah, there's this exponential amount of growth that we've seen out of him from the time in training camp where he and JJ McCarthy, according to a lot of sources inside, were actually neck and neck. And that's not a slide on Sam. That really was like more of a feather in the cap to JJ. They're like, this guy is accelerating way faster than we thought. He's going to be more pro ready than we thought. And then obviously with the injury, Sam takes over, and you look at where he's gone from just understanding the offense, winning over the locker room, the leadership, all that stuff. But it's the progression of his anticipation within the passing routes and the way that he commands this offense. I mean, he made some really kind of dumb, foolish mistakes early in the season, and he grew past that. He didn't listen to all the critics. He didn't think about, this is just what my career is. I'm just going to kind of go back to this average quarterback. He's pushed beyond that. And, that's him, that's KOC, that's Wes Phillips, all the people offensively. But I look at his development, not only just from a character, the respect in the locker room, but again, the way that he anticipates in this offense. You watch these games and he's throwing receivers open. He wasn't really necessarily doing that at the start of the season. And then on top of that, his pocket awareness is just outstanding. I mean, the way that he can athletically get out of trouble. Look, it's not Caleb Williams but he can extend plays, I think, better than a lot of people really thought he was going to. And he can get the ball down the field in a hurry, and he's so precise. So everything that you're looking for, at least in this style of offense, he checks every box.
And really, that throw to Jefferson to win the game encapsulates where he is at right now, because the mobility, the way he was able to escape, make a really athletic throw. And don't get me wrong, it was a heck of a catch by Justin Jefferson as well. But people get so caught up, Ben Leber, when you say, someone's a system quarterback. It's not rocket science with these young quarterbacks. They're all individually talented, but if they're not with the right coaching, if they don't have a lot of talent around them, it's very tough for a quarterback to succeed in this league.
It really is. And that's why I think that, KOC has proven that quarterbacks deserve a second, maybe third chance. I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. And, I've been a huge fan of Baker even when he came out, but I think he probably admits maybe, maturity wasn't where it needs to be. That's just part of the growth. Maybe the system wasn't really working there in Cleveland. All these things you learn from as you go down their own journey. And you look at Sam's situation, and they specifically targeted him and looked at him for a lot of the things. KOC's always talked about when he looks at quarterbacks, whether they're veterans, whether they're rookies coming out of college, accuracy. That's the one thing he loved out of Kirk Cousins, accuracy. You have to be accurate. It's a hard thing to teach, especially when you're moving up a level from college to the NFL. And Sam had that. And also, this is a deep ball offense. Now, it's maybe not like Norv Turner of old, where you're really, really chucking the ball down the field. But you look at the number of air yards that Kirk's had, that anybody, Nick Mullins when he's in there, and then you get Sam in there as well. He wants to get the ball down the field, and Sam has the arm strength to do that. The athleticism on top of it is just the cherry on top.
And the big debate now, there will be some fans that will say, you got to bring back Sam. You got to re-sign him. Other fans will say, you know what, you're going to trust Kevin O'Connell. You're going to go with J.J. McCarthy, and Sam will go somewhere else. I feel like in what will happen, it's going to be the latter, not the former, and Sam will be somewhere else next year. How about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's hard to say that, but this team has talked about a plan for a long time. Kwesi and his staff, they're always talking about a plan. It seems like they're always thinking about not just next year, but they're looking down the road. They've always got the big picture in mind. And the big picture in mind is not overpaying or paying a lot of money at the quarterback position, or really only one position to hamper what you can build foundationally, depth-wise for the whole roster. So I think they really, really wanted to shed that Kirk Cousins contract. Now, Sam's not going to get probably anywhere close to that, but he's still going to get north of $35 million a year, probably into the $40 million a year. And you're sort of slowly going back into that world where you don't have a lot of money to spend in free agency. And this is a draft in 2025 where the Vikings don't have a lot of draft picks. So they're going to have to build through free agency. And so the best way you can do that is to get a high number of value as far as the salary cap, which they do right now. Things are always going to change, but we're going to be major players this offseason in the free agency. And I think they want to keep it that way so that, again, they can build the totality of the roster.
And I know you were with the Chargers to start off your career. Does this at all remind you a little Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers just happening all over again?
Yeah, a little bit. You got to throw Eli in there because he was a part of that whole mess to begin with too. I mean, I would remember being on the team and I'm like, why doesn't Eli want to come here? Like, what's so wrong with San Diego? But everything worked out. And yes, if you can go younger at that position and feel like you can still get that high level of play, I mean, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I think it's going to be one of those things at the end of the season where everybody shakes hands, everybody hugs, they say their I love yous. Sam's got to be super appreciative for the fat contract that KOC helped him get. And the Vikings are going to get a young, hopefully superstar young quarterback, that trails him.
I feel like a part of you, and I know you well, but, I don't totally know everything that Ben Leber thinks. You would be okay if the Giants have the number 1 overall pick and Shedeur Sanders kind of gives him a stiff arm and forces his way to the Raiders all these years later. Is that a fair statement?
Sure. I like the high level of drama. I think it'd be kind of fun, but then what happens with the head coach? I mean, is the head coach like this? Is he gone if he goes to the Raiders and all of a sudden his dad comes in? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's a soap opera that I'm willing to watch.
I think Antonio Pierce, this is a big misnomer. I think a lot of people believe Deion's going to follow Shedeur. I think that's going to be a year or two from now. They'll let the current coach be in there. And then usually a lot of these teams are in that spot because they're bad and they're going to be needing a new coach anyway. So I think that's a year or two away from seeing Shedeur and Deion link back up on an NFL sideline.
No, I like that train of thought too. And I really think for Shedeur, it's probably the best case scenario. I mean, the NFL locker room is a lot different than college. You really, really have to prove yourself to earn people's respect. And if you feel like it's a level of nepotism and you feel like you're getting coddled a little bit because of your daddy, then, it's going to be harder for the guys to rally behind you.
Last thing I'll ask you, Ben Leber, when you get to future Sam destinations, if this goes the way that we think it's going to go, hey, Geno Smith has done a good job, right? The last few years with Seattle, reinventing himself in this fraternity of former Jets quarterbacks that didn't work out in New York. He's older, though. He's 34. He got a year left on his contract. I look at the Seahawks as that would be a good landing spot for Sam.
It's interesting. I mean, I think they'd have to do something differently with their offensive coordinator. They don't have a high number of play action pass. That's something that Sam's really, really good at. I think it's going to have to fit his style. And I think right now, currently with their offensive coordinator, it's not it very much, obviously he comes from University of Washington. I'm watching the tape. I see the game yesterday in Seattle and I'm like, this looks like a college offense. And I don't know if that's the best fit for Sam. So I have a crazy theory that he's going to end back up in LA with the Rams. I know that Stafford is again playing really, really well in the month of December, late November, just like he did last year, but he has a gigantic cap value, something like $60 million. If they can get out from underneath that and pay the quarterback, a new quarterback, in the way that they can fudge the numbers and get that number significantly down and get a young quarterback that's back in LA that fits the system, then I think that's the best landing spot for him.
That'd be really something. Ben Leber, part of the Vikings radio network, former Vikings linebacker, has a football team that could be getting the number 1 seed in the NFC. If I had to ask you right now, rank the 3 best teams in the NFC. 1, 2, 3, how would you rank them?
Vikings, Eagles, Lions.
Ooh, the Lions down in that number 3 spot. The injuries is what you think is going to do them in?
The injuries. Obviously their offense can score 1,000 points a game, but I think you look at the way the Vikings can spin the ball down the field and score some points too. If it has to come down to a shootout, then it has to come down to a shootout. But I trust our defense more than theirs.
Ben, happy holidays. Enjoy the ride the rest of the way. We appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, man. Same to you.
There he is, Ben Leber, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show. How about that? Now, I don't think it's surprising when he says J.J. McCarthy is going to start next year for the Vikings and Sam Darnold's going to go somewhere else. I know that the Rams have been floated out there, but I've always thought Stafford's going to be back. He's kind of going with the Rams for Sam Darnold's next destination. If you're Sam, you love that, right? Because you have Cooper Kupp, you got Puka Nacua, you got Kyron Williams. There's a lot there. But are they really going to move on from Stafford? Maybe if Stafford retires, that's a different story. But that's been a destination that's been floated out there. I just have not been able to get there yet. Hey, Botch, I'm going to put you on the spot here real quickly. So Penn State's Bo Perbula who's no longer Penn State's quarterback, right? It's Drew Aller, we know that. But Prbula was next in line. Aller's coming back. Prbula has to leave the team, enter the transfer portal because all this wacky, transfer portal period and the academic calendar, all that stuff. He is now going to Missouri. If you just had to guesstimate, he signed an NIL package. What do you think the dollar value is on Bo Prbula's NIL package at Missouri, if you had to take a guess?
$5.5 million.
Too high.
Too high? 3.5.
Still too high.
Really? $1 million.
$1.5 million is the NIL package for Bo Prbula. Now, good for him. God bless. But it just shows you. And Bo Prbula, he's going to Missouri, okay? He could be a solid quarterback. But, man, it's a good time to be a college kid when you get an NIL package of $1.5 million. We'll take a timeout. We'll come on back. We will do a Week 16 version of No Huddle Offense next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show. Last night on Sunday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys surprise the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they end up beating Tampa by a final score of 26-24. Baker Mayfield was trailing for the entirety of this game, and I was just waiting for Baker to lead that team to victory. And with 2:36 left, he has a touchdown pass, and that makes it 26-24. So I'm just saying, just get the ball back. They force a 3-and-out. Baker gets the ball, makes an incredible escape, and then this play happened, and it was a stunning, and I mean a stunning and spectacular play by Deron Bland.
Here's the snap. Mayfield back to pass. Looking left. In trouble. Hit in the backfield. And he will flip it out to White, who makes the catch. Breaks a tackle across the 30. Out to the 32. The ball came out. And the Cowboys have it. The Cowboys took it away.
And that was courtesy of Ryan Rackey on Westwood One. What a marvelous play by Deron Bland. He's making the tackle, and he strips the ball out. And they had an interception a little earlier by Jordan Lewis, which I still don't know how he caught that ball, too. So the Dallas Cowboys, I'll give them credit. McCarthy had those guys still playing for him. And you know what? With what has happened the last 5 weeks, I don't think Mike McCarthy is getting fired. I think he'll get a 2-year extension. So basically 1 more year, and then after that year, he could be a lame duck coach, or if you could just get rid of him with only 1 year left in the contract. But now Tampa Bay's 8-7. The Cowboys improved to 7-8. Some numbers from this game: Cooper Rush 26-35 for 292 passing yards and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb 7 catches for 105 yards. Bucky Irving did get a touchdown. The Bucs had 23 carries for 134 yards as a team. Mike Evans 5 catches for 69 yards held out of the end zone. Jalen McMillan did have a receiving touchdown along with Ryan Miller, as Baker Mayfield was 31-43 for 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Botcher, what's the question here?
Who do you have more faith in out of the NFC South, the Buccaneers or the Falcons?
I'm still going to say, even though the Falcons control their own destiny now, and the Falcons have beat Tampa Bay twice, and there's only 2 weeks left in the season, and they have the same record, I'm still going to say it's a Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because you look at the schedules. The Falcons have the Commanders and the Panthers. The Commanders are a really good team, and you know what you're getting out of them with Jaden Daniels. And the Panthers have surprised some people down the stretch, and Bryce Young has played well. You look at the Tampa Bay schedule. Sure, they play the Panthers, but they're coming off a loss. And then they go on to play the Saints, who I would imagine many in the Saints organization are ready to check on out. So I think it's more likely that the Bucs go 2-0 rather than the Falcons going 2-0. And as long as Tampa Bay goes 2-0 and the Falcons go 1-1 or even 0-2, and I think they will go 1-1, then I do believe the Buccaneers are going to win the division. But wouldn't that be something if the Falcons end up making the playoffs and how late into the season they made the quarterback change. But I will go with Tampa Bay, having more confidence in them, but was disappointed with their effort last night. Alrighty, Vikings and Seahawks. Let's start off with the highlight. Justin Jefferson already had 1 touchdown catch. Well, let's go get a second touchdown catch, as this was another great escape by Sam Darnold and his mobility. We're just talking about it with Ben Leber from the Vikings Radio Network. Let's hear Sam Darnold hook up with Justin Jefferson for the second time today. We will also hear from the Vikings Radio Network, but it's not Ben Leber. It's the great Paul Allen.
1st and 10 from the Seattle 39. 3:58 to go. Seattle leads by 4 in the fourth quarter. Sam steps up. Sam throws left. Caught. Jefferson. Touchdown! Yes! Sam, the man on the fan, finds the moneymaker, Justin Jefferson.
And we take a look at the numbers from this one. Sam Darnold, 246 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He has 32 touchdowns, so 11 interceptions on the season. Jay Jettas have a night, 10 catches for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jordan Addison had a touchdown as well. And Andrew Van Ginkel had 2 sacks in the contest. Geno Smith, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Had a pick at the end of the game, which did ice the victory for the Minnesota Vikings. And you look at Jackson Smith-Njigba, 8 catches for 95 yards. DK Metcalf, 3 for 57 with the touchdown. And Tyler Lockett only had 2 catches for 19 yards. Botcher, what do you got cooking up for me here?
Can Sam Darnold actually be a legit Super Bowl winning starting quarterback somewhere?
So I don't think he's going to be back with Minnesota at the end of the season. I think they're going to turn the page to J.J. McCarthy. Can he win the Super Bowl this year in Minnesota? I think he can. You know, Chiefs, Super Bowl contender. Bills, Super Bowl contender. I really don't love anybody else in the AFC. And then you glance over at the NFC. Lions are really damn good. I know they won yesterday, but they have a ton of injuries. The Eagles, just when you start to praise them last week, then they drop a game to the Commanders. I know that Jalen Hurts got hurt. Kenny Pickett was in. But still, Devontae Smith just can't drop that ball at the end of the game. And there were 5 turnovers by the Commanders' offense, and the Eagles still couldn't win the game. So I look at Sam Darnold. Can he win one this year in Minnesota? Yes. Do I think it will happen? No. And if he's going somewhere else, you know, he could go to the Raiders where you got Brock Bowers, but you don't have as much around him clearly in Minnesota. And Sam's going to need a lot around him because it's a two-way street. You know, if he goes to the Rams, could he win with the Rams? Sure. But I don't think he's going somewhere where you're going to look at them and have a great expectation. So if he goes to Seattle, I think that would be a fun spot, as I talked about earlier. So I think he could be good. But Super Bowl good, once he leaves Minnesota, which they're even skeptics if he could win a Super Bowl in Minnesota this year, I'm going to say that's more no than yes in terms of him being able to win a Super Bowl. All righty, let's head down to Landover, Maryland. 9 seconds remaining. It looked like the Eagles are going to win, even though Jaden Daniels and the Commanders' offense had 5 turnovers. There were 3 fumbles. You had 2 interceptions by Jaden Daniels. You see the Washington Commanders in their home stadium, even though it's a dump. It's not even FedEx Field anymore. I don't even know what they call it, but it's a dump. They were matriculating the ball down the field. And with 6 seconds left, Jamison Crowder in the end zone. Jaden Daniels found him for this score.
2nd and goal at the 10. Snap to Daniels. Eagles break 4. Into the middle of the end zone.
Touchdown!
Touchdown, Washington! Jamison Crowder! Amazing! Clutch football from the Washington offense! They've done it again!
That's Bram Weinstein on the Commanders Radio Network. Touchdown! Touchdown! It's amazing! Jaden Daniels! He gives us more to cheer about than we've ever had in like 30 years! Commanders! Commanders! That's an unbelievable call. You look back at this one, injuries did play a part of the game. Jalen Hurts, 1 of 4, 11 yards passing. He did leave in the first quarter with the concussion. It was weird. I saw him have his helmet back in his hands, helmet on. It looked like he was coming back in, and they ruled him out for the rest of the game. Kenny Pickett, Kenny 2 gloves, had an interception and a touchdown, 143 yards passing. Had a ball late right in the hands of Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith dropped it. It would have iced the game. They had to settle for a field goal. And then you had that game-winning touchdown eventually by the Commanders. Saquon Barkley had 150 rushing yards in the game and a touchdown. A.J. Brown, 8 for 97 with the touchdown. Devontae Smith, 6 receptions for 51 yards as well. And I'll give you some more numbers on this. Jaden Daniels, he's been spectacular. The Offensive Rookie of the Year, we will get to that in just a second. I think it's going to be him. But 258 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 81 yards rushing. And Olamide Zaccheaus had 2 touchdowns in this one. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, had a touchdown as well. So the Eagles, their winning streak is over. It ends at 10. And this is one where if you had Jalen Hurts, you probably think you're going to win the game. They still could have won the game without him, but they did not do so, even after getting 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns early. I think I said 1 touchdown, but 2 rushing touchdowns from Saquon Barkley. So the Commanders, they're 10-5. Eagles are 12-3. Probably going to now not get the 1 seed. Commanders going to make the playoffs. 36-33. Commanders beat the Eagles. And I kind of gave it away, but Botcher, give me the question here.
Just making sure. Is Jaden Daniels still your Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's done so. Sorry, Bo Nix. Sorry, Brock Bowers. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Absolutely, it's going to be Jaden Daniels. All righty, let's go to Saturday. This is one of the rare times in college football this season where the NFL is actually better than college football after a weekend because all the college football games that matter were an absolute blowout. And on Saturday, all right, Chiefs-Texans was fine, and Ravens-Steelers was at least watchable. And then on Sunday, you had some good games. You know, it wasn't a go-right-home type of weekend, but Commanders-Eagles was good. Panthers-Cardinals was entertaining. Vikings-Seahawks entertaining. Bills-Patriots out of nowhere ended up being a good game. If you like pain and you like the draft, well, Raiders-Jaguars, depending on who you root for, was entertaining. Dolphins gave you a little bit of an interest, and then the Cowboys-Buccaneers game was a good game at night. But I take you to Saturday, Texans and the Chiefs. Chiefs are now 14-1 in the season. Texans are 9-6. Some numbers from this contest. C.J. Stroud, 244 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. It's his 3rd second interception game in his last 6. Tank Dell suffered a terrible injury, but before that injury, had 6 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. Nico Collins had 7 grabs for 60 yards. Mahomes, well, 260 yards through the air, a passing touchdown, also had 33 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. Kareem Hunt had 79 total yards and a touchdown. Xavier Worthy did find the end zone as well, 7 catches, 65 yards. DeAndre Hopkins made some nice catches too. Hollywood Brown was back in action. Mike Pennell did have a sack. As the Kansas City Chiefs, all they do is win, and I was impressed with their offense. And they ended up getting the victory, 27-19 over the Texans. Another big game, another big dud for the Houston Texans. Let's listen up once again to Ryan Rackey, who had this Mahomes call to Xavier Worthy for an 8-yard strike.
First down and goal from the Texans 8. Trips left, single man right. Mahomes in the gun. Hunt to his right side. Gray in motion from the right. Here's the snap. Mahomes back, looks left, throws left. Wide open, caught, touchdown. It's Xavier Worthy. An 8-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes to Worthy, and the Chiefs extend the lead.
All righty, Botcher, what do we got cooking up here on the question?
If you were betting right now, not preseason, not postseason, would you put the money on the Chiefs to three-peat?
Oh, boy. You say money. Money. Well, I bet a lot of games and I lose some money, so, you know. If you say gun to your head, that's a little bit of a different story. But if I had to make a selection now, man, Buffalo with Josh Allen. I know they weren't showing much yesterday, and they beat them in the regular season. The NFC, Eagles come back down to earth, but they were without Jalen Hurts. Lions have a bunch of injury. Pains me to say it. Because I know if this was my team, and this was a year where they've only had 1 loss, and they got this much disrespected, because I think everyone else wants somebody else to win, I'd probably be running to the bank. If these were my Patriots, I'd be running to the bank. And right now, the Chiefs basically are the Patriots. So, yeah, if I had to put money down, and significant money, not play money, I'm talking significant dollars, until someone takes out the champs, I think they're going to find a way to get it done. If you want to be the champs, well, you got to beat the champs, and I think that will resonate as true this year. Okay, let's wrap it up. Going back to Saturday, let's hear Marlon Humphrey with this 37-yard pick 6. This is Jerry with the G, Jerry Sandusky on the Ravens Radio Network.
2nd down and 7 for the Steelers. Play action, Russell Wilson rolls right, throws, intercepted, picked off, Marlon Humphrey, he's going to the house, pick 6, Marlon Humphrey, and the defense steps up to the moment. Oh, what a play, and this house is on fire.
Sorry to do that to you, Dexter Henry is standing by. Says Ravens beat the Steelers 34-17. I don't make this segment. This is a pre-produced segment. I had no clue you were doing the updates today, and they put in this highlight
Folks,
right there.
it was all to torture me.
I don't know.
Nah, you wouldn't do that.
Steelers fans are just there. They're nice, you know? They used to be great.
Wow.
It's
See, you're
true.
trying to bait me. I see what you're doing.
I'm not. Russell Wilson, 22 of 33. I'll give you the stats. 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. The Steelers
and a fumble. And a lost
fumble.
That hurt us.
Najee 2 weeks ago. Now Russell Wilson. This offense can't do anything without George Pickens. You got
Pickens should be back, on Christmas Day.
But still, they're not going to beat anyone when it matters.
You know what? I'm going to say something. I'm going to give you some juice right now.
It's true.
Here's
Lamar Jackson, 3 passing touchdowns.
Does Wednesday matter?
Does Wednesday matter?
Will
Because they
you
go
be
up
impressed?
against the Chiefs.
Yeah. Will that matter for you?
If they that would be a very nice victory. Yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say it. Steelers get the upset on Christmas Day in the Berg. Send the black and gold faithful home happy. I'm going with that.
So here's the only problem.
Yes, sir.
Now this could get risky, because is then too much time off a bad thing? If the Chiefs win this game, they lock up the 1 seed. Then their last game of the season against the Broncos means nothing. Then they get a week off. So I'm curious by the Chiefs' approach, and I think they're going to go all out to win this game. I do. But they're due. But that would be typical Steelers now.
It would.
You win a game that you would be perceived as a big game, but then when they probably get a rematch in the playoffs up against the Chiefs, they get smothered.
I don't see that happening against Patty Mahomes in the playoffs. I'm not going. I'm a realist. I told you.
I just want the Steelers, and this is not a political statement, I want them to be great again. I look at the Steelers, they're just average. They're good. They're a good football team, but there's a difference in good and great, and they have not been great in a long time.
I don't disagree with you on that. I think they've been better offensively than they had the last couple of years, but still.
Not saying much.
That is true.
Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges.
That was rough.
Kenny Pickett.
That rough times, and I wanted to root for my Pitt brother, but that was rough.
Yeah.
I hear you.
All right. Botcher, what's the question here? Let's wrap this up.
What's your confidence in the Ravens that they can win the Super Bowl?
The Ravens? So, I was in on the Ravens last year. I actually, before the season, picked the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl. So I guess I was in on them before the season started. I think it was just I wanted to see someone other than Kansas City. The problem is, I don't love their defense this year. And Lamar Jackson, I know he's balling out right now, and I love Lamar. But he was balling out last year. And they had an easier road last year than what they're going to have this year. And they couldn't get there. So if he couldn't get there last year, why should I expect him to get there this year? I would say there's about a 25% chance that they end up getting to the Super Bowl this year. They're the third best team in the AFC. But I think it's a big gap with the Chiefs and the Bills, even though we've seen what the Ravens have been able to do this year. They beat the Bills, and if Isaiah likely could have got that other foot down, they probably would have beat the Chiefs. So there you go. That's another edition of No Huddle Offense. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll wrap up shop after these short messages. Update time first. Here is America's favorite Steelers fan and favorite fan of the Pittsburgh Panthers. Right? Pat Narduzzi.
There you go.
I'm a fan of Narduzzi.
I like that. I
like your college. I don't dislike your NFL team.
No, you're not a hater.
No.
You're not.
Why would I hate the Patriots dominated the Steelers for all those years? So why would I hate them?
You're not a hater.
It's like a bye to the Super Bowl whenever they play.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of joy out of saying this. I know. See, I know this here.
See, Dexter's such a nice guy. I'm just trying to see when can I reach a boiling point where like Dexter Henry throws something at me.
Not over this. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Not over this.
Gotcha. So we'll dig deeper and we'll try to find
You might find it one day.
We'll find the sleazy and a really slimy level.
Be ready to duck. That's what you got to do.
Okay.
Ready to duck.
Okay. Duck. So then I'll dodge.
There you go.
Because I think if you tell me to duck. Then I think you're going to go the other way. And then maybe I have to dodge. So
just got to stay ready, man.
Yeah. Now I just told you my approach.
Yeah, you did. You gave me the game plan.
Here is Dexter Henry.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, Tank Dell's season is over. According to head coach D'Amico Ryans, the Texans wideout suffered a torn ACL and dislocated kneecap in Saturday's loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Texans, they're also going to be without starting safety Jimmy Ward, who suffered a mild foot sprain that will require surgery. So with Dell out, the Texans claimed wideout Deontay Johnson on waivers. Johnson now will be playing for his third team this season and fourth team this calendar year. Monday Night Football features the 5-9 Saints visiting the 10-4 Packers, who have won 8 of their last 10 games. However, Green Bay head coach Matt LaFleur says his squad is not sleeping on New Orleans.
Teams are having a hard time moving the ball and having a hard time scoring points. And a lot of these games have been close. I mean, they've lost 4 games by 3 points or less. So you're talking about, that's a very minimal difference. And they could easily be sitting at 9-5 right now. So I think our guys realize what type of team is coming in here.
Kickoff from Lambeau tonight at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. And in women's hoops, Liberty star Sabrina Ionescu was signed on for the inaugural season of Unrivaled in what the league is calling a historic agreement. The 27-year-old WNBA champ will play in the new 3-on-3 women's basketball league starting next month in Miami. I'm Dexter Henry.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, it's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Smiley in the YouTube chat says, Zach, have you ever seen the Rockefeller tree lit up in person? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sports Center, at Zach Gelb, using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I live in New York City, so that is not something that is crazy to me because I've seen it so many times before. But yes, if you are not someone that lives in New York or New York City, I can understand the tourist attraction of going, right, with your significant other or something like that, and going to see the Rockefeller tree lit up in New York City. But I've seen it many times, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, when you're just walking around the city. There's so many other Christmas trees, too, that they light up now in New York City if you don't want to go to Rockefeller as well. Like right around my apartment down in the financial district, they do have a big tree there as well, which, if I'm being honest, it's not as big as the one in Rockefeller Center, but it's not a big difference to me. Those are two things that I try to avoid at all costs, Botcher. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day, or three things. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, you will never see me ever there, unless if I'm in it, which I don't think I'll be in it anytime soon. But if they ask me to be in it, if they want me to be like the Grand Marshal of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, I couldn't pass up on that opportunity. New Year's Eve, I will never go see the big ball drop. You couldn't pay, well, maybe you could pay me. But you get the point. You couldn't pay me to go there. And then also, I'm not trying to rush this time of the year to go see the tree at Rockefeller Center.
It would take you about 25 minutes to walk through that crowd, probably today.
Well, it's weird for New Year's, too. You have people that wait in line all day.
See a ball. It's a ball.
Yeah.
You can see the ball now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! And it's cold. You're miserable. New Year's to me is such an overrated, and I mean over. Like when I was younger and you were partying and you were drinking and you'd be going out to the clubs, I absolutely loved that. It was fun when I was in my early 20s. But now since I'm becoming a curmudgeon, now since I'm becoming a more mature and older man, yeah, I'm not loving New Year's. I think New Year's is so overrated. I'm good in an apartment with a few people, have a nice little dinner, order something in, Happy New Year, and then you get the show on the road. That's just me for New Year's now. But this, you got to go out, overpriced dinner, or you got to go to a club. Hey, I love a good time. But on New Year's, I just think it's so overrated. My favorite holiday, Thanksgiving. I think now my least favorite holiday is New Year's. And also, when you get, even though, right, Memorial Day, it's bigger than just barbecues and things like that, but that's like the start of summer too. And even though Labor Day, it's kind of the end of summer, those are usually two fun weekends as well just because it's always barbecue and it's a summer, it's good weather. Maybe you're down at the Jersey Shore or something like that. But New Year's, I've had enough. Really have had enough with New Year's. So that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network today. Big thanks to Jordan Faison for joining us from the Notre Dame football team, also national champion in lacrosse. Big thanks to Ben Leber for stopping by as well. And a big thank you to Ryan Botcher for producing this extravaganza today. Wonderful job by Botcher and also Alex Azarum. Merry Christmas to all. Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. If I didn't mention it, I hope you have a great holiday season. We're going to be off for 2 days. So we're off Tuesday. We are off Wednesday. We will be back on Thursday, and we will be here on Friday. And then next week, and I'll take you through the rest of the year. Obviously, I'm here on Saturday down the hall for WFAN, Sunday for Infinity Sports Network, Sunday morning football. And then next week, it's the same thing. Oh, that's nice how that lined up. Monday, we are here. Tuesday and Wednesday, we won't be. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And then we'll be back on Thursday and Friday, the 2nd and the 3rd. So if we don't talk until then, or if you don't tune in until then, have a great Christmas. Have a great holiday season. And also have a wonderful new year. And I could say something cheesy like, 2025 will be the best year yet. Hopefully it will be. I don't know, though. I can't guarantee anything. I'm just the radio host. I'm just a bloviating jackass on the radio. All righty, we will talk on Thursday, everybody. Right at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. I'm Zach Gelb. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all your support all throughout the year. And we will talk coming up on Thursday. We out. Bye-bye. Peace. Woof, woof.
You're in a 5-minute break.